Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Got Cheated by His Girlfriend and Join Occult Research Club movie. Before we start, please go support Senpai Dragon1236 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. Prologue: The beginning of pain. The Hyoudou family was a wealthy family that owned a hotel chain that was one of the largest and most successful in all of Japan, and in the supernatural world they were known for their large reserves of magic, but he was not born with that ability, and to top it off his sister Izumi had the sacred gear known as Booster Gear Longinus. Issei suffered a lot because of that. He was even beaten at school. He was fed up with the abuse and left home, stealing money from his family. He lived in a small house, but it was his. This one at the academy had gotten a girlfriend. This one went to the academy. Issei, well, I'll go see. Yuri is surely waiting for me, he said with a smile. He went to the gym since he had to clean there. He was walking until he arrived and heard some noises coming from the bathroom. He was somewhat confused and went to see, and what he saw broke his heart. He saw his girlfriend having sex with a third-year boy. Yuri, yes, give me more, I'm yours. This she said while being carried by the boy who spoke. Boy, and it's Issei for you. Issei watched as his girlfriend was attacked by that boy. Yuri, Issei is nothing to me. I am yours, only yours. He is just a toy. Issei saw that he was crying and left the place, but not before slamming the door and throwing away a ring that Yuri gave him on their first date. He left the place crying. The two lovers stopped when they heard the noise and quickly got dressed. When they left, they didn't see anyone. They only found the ring that Yuri gave to Issei. With Issei, he went to his house to cry. Issei, because she did that to me, because I loved her, because. Issei cried all night without stopping. He had lost everything: his family, his friends, and his girlfriend. Issei Hyoudou had lost everything. Chapter 1. It was a cloudy day and it looked like it was going to rain. In a room, a black-haired man woke up with dark circles under his eyes. He woke up slowly until he finally got up. He had a lifeless, dull look, a dead look. He got up and went to take a bath. After 20 minutes he came out of the bathroom and got dressed in his academy uniform. After getting dressed, he went to the Academy since he had been absent for more than a month. He went to the academy, in which he was not very respected by both students and teachers, and because of this, rumors had easily circulated that Issei was selling information about the different clubs to rival schools. Upon learning of these rumors, everyone began to hit him and insult him. Another of his changes was that his hair changed from brown to black and his eyes changed to a strange purple color, but Issei did not give it much importance. He arrived at his classroom, which was classroom 2B, and upon entering he went to sit in his seat. Upon sitting down he began to look at the cloudy sky, which he liked. Until Rias came in and spoke. Rias, good morning, young man. All good morning. The brown-haired boy just stood there but didn't speak, something that wasn't noticed by anyone. And so classes began. Issei paid attention from time to time. He spent his time looking at the lifeless, sad gray sky. That was what he saw in that cloudy sky. The bell rang, indicating that it was time for lunch. Issei just got up and went to the academy courtyard. He leaned against a tree until he heard some voices. Girl, wow, we have the traitor Co here. Girl 2, what a surprise, we have to teach him another lesson. These went to Issei, who, when seeing them, did nothing. He just looked at them, and before he could speak he was hit by a wooden katana. He stood up and looked at them, and he began to be beaten by the girls of the Kendo Club. At the end of the beating he got up and went to his classroom. Before entering he just sighed and entered. He was insulted, but he did not pay attention. Boy, look at the traitor Co. Boy 2, look at the perverted idiot. Girl, the idiot Co. Girl 2, the immature idiot. This and other insults were directed at Issei, who did nothing. He just listened. When he got to his place he saw that he was painting with things like traitor, pervert, and idiot, and that his backpack was broken. He just looked at his things and sat down. Taking out his backpack and his lunch, which was destroyed from the blows, he just sighed and the bell rang, starting classes again. Issei just looked at the sky until a teacher spoke. Teacher, remember that the sports festival will be in 2 months, so get ready. Everyone was surprised since the festival was near. Issei did not give it importance, he just prepared to look at the sky. When he finished classes, he got up and went home. When he arrived, he saw his backpack and sighed. Issei, now I'll have to buy another one. Issei just threw his backpack and changed his clothes. After changing, he went to the living room and called and ordered a pizza. He knew how to cook, but he never did it. After a few minutes, the pizza arrived. He paid and went to his room. Upon arriving, he turned on his computer and started playing video games. He did not do homework or projects because even if he did them, the teachers rejected them or others accepted them, but it was with a low grade. From then on, Issei stopped doing work. He was playing on his computer and eating pizza. With the Gremry girls, they were in the living room of their house. They were just talking about their lives and how they would get husbands and how they would be happy. The next morning, Issei got up from his bed. After getting up, he did the same as always. Upon arriving at the academy, he went to his classroom and sat down. Issei was deep in thought until he heard something. Boy, they don't know what happened to Yuri-san. Boy too, I found out that a month ago she became depressed. Nothing like that, and that's why she hasn't come. Issei didn't give it much importance and continued thinking. After a few minutes, the teacher arrived. And so classes began. Issei did not pay attention to the class, and so the day passed, Issei being insulted and beaten by several clubs until the exit. He was walking to the exit until he saw Murayama. He did not give it importance, but saw how she was crossing the street and that a truck comes, but Murayama did not notice. Issei ran towards Murayama and pushed her forward. She fell to the ground. Issei saw everything in slow motion, and in that. Chapter 2. Issei woke up slowly. He was somewhat sore and had a headache. He got up and saw clearly that it was a hospital room. He was surprised because the room was somewhat elegant. This one was connected to several machines. He sat down and looked closely at the window, which was open, revealing the cloudy sky, something that Issei liked, but he showed no expression, just a cold face with a dead look. Issei just looked at the sky and spoke to himself. Issei, what the hell am I doing here? Issei was thinking until he remembered. Flashback. Issei pushed Murayama, who saw everything in slow motion, and in that the truck hit him. Flying several meters, he hit a wall. He only saw blurry things and fainted. Issei, true, I saved her life. What a waste. I would have let her die or at least get hurt. Issei was thinking about why he did it until the door opened, revealing a doctor who, upon seeing Issei, spoke. Doctor, good morning, young man. It seems that you have woken up. You are fine. Do you need something? Issei just looked at him and spoke. Issei, how long have I been asleep? Doctor, you've been unconscious for exactly 2 months, boy. Issei just didn't care and spoke. Issei, thank you very much, but could you tell me what I'm doing here and what happened when I fainted? The doctor was surprised since Issei did not show surprise. Doctor, well, after you fainted, a guy called an ambulance, and they brought you here. The reason you're here is easy, to see if you're hurt, but you don't have anything serious, just a few bruises and some broken ribs. Issei, okay, thank you. Doctor, but what surprises me is that after that blow you were not seriously injured. You are very resilient, boy. Issei, thanks. When I can get out of here. Doctor, we just need to do some tests to see if you hurt your skull and to see if you suffered any trauma from the blow. Issei, it's okay. After that the doctor left. Issei just lay down and slept. Time skipped 3 days later. Issei left the hospital dressed in his clean uniform. He went home and took off his uniform. He prepared to clean his house. After finishing, he ordered a pizza. After he arrived, he started watching television, more precisely movies. The next day was Friday. He left his house alone dressed and went to a supermarket. He went and bought things to make something to eat. After buying, he left the supermarket and went to his house. When he passed by the academy, he saw several students leaving from there. He just passed by and went to his house. When he arrived, he only made some food and started playing video games on his computer. He stayed up almost all night playing video games. After playing, he went to sleep. Time skipped 7 days later. It was Friday. A black-haired boy woke up slowly. He was already fully awake. He looked at the time. He just sighed tiredly and went to take a bath. When he finished, he made his lunch for the academy. He was already ready and went straight to the academy. This one was walking alone down the street. It was raining, but he didn't care. The rain was wetting his face and his uniform, but he liked it. Issei, another day I hope, and this time they don't destroy my lunch. Issei said in a tired tone as he just looked at the cloudy sky and sighed. Issei arrived at the entrance of the academy. He was wet, but he didn't care. He walked while being watched by several of the students with pity. He didn't give it importance and continued walking. He saw that all the students were carrying umbrellas and he was the only one who didn't carry one. He just put it aside and continued on his way. Upon arriving at his classroom, he went to his seat while being observed in the same way as when he entered. He alone sat down. Instantly the history teacher arrived. He alone dedicated himself to observing the cloudy sky and paying attention from time to time to class. After several classes, lunch arrived, and it was still raining. He alone left the place and went to the courtyard of the academy. This was wet from the rain. He saw through the windows how several of the students looked at him with pity and sadness. He alone got up and went back to his classroom. His path was the most normal, with the exception that they no longer insulted him, something that he did not give much importance to. When he arrived, he saw how several students continued to look at him that way. He just ignored it and went to his place. Upon arriving, he saw his backpack intact as well as his lunch. He just grabbed it and left again. Upon arriving at the cafeteria, he sat at a table in the corner of the place. He just sat down and started eating. Chapter 3. Issei was eating quietly in a corner of the cafeteria. Issei, this lunch tastes very good. This place is very quiet, he thought with an expressionless look, but with a slight smile at that. He saw how the door of the cafeteria opened, showing a group of girls who sat near Issei's table. He did not give it importance and continued eating until he heard the conversation of the girls near him. Girl 1, they already heard that the traitor Ko left the hospital. Girl 2, yes, in fact he came to school today. Girl 3, wow, seriously. Girl 2, yes, in fact they told me about the big change that happened. Girl 1, seriously, what is it? Girl 2, that he became very cold and distant. He hardly speaks, in fact he never speaks. Girl 3, wow, that's understandable given what we did to him. Girl 1, I still can't believe he's innocent. Girl 3, yes, it seems that the one who was selling the information was a third-year boy. Girl 2, and what is your name? Girl 3, I don't know, he was expelled from the academy. Girl 2, I see. Girl 1, I actually saw Issei today, and he looks really bad. Girl 3, how much? Girl 1, she has dark circles under her eyes, a dead look, an air of sadness. She is almost always alone, and in her living room she only spends her time looking at the sky. Girl 3, wow, I didn't know that. Girl 1, actually everyone talks about it. Girl 2, wow, that guy's appearance was something surprising. Girl 3, I totally agree with you. Girl 1, yes, poor thing, what happened to her was really hard. Girl 2, in fact, I found out something that I'm sure everyone will know very soon. Girl 1, and what is it? Girl 2, I heard that Issei doesn't have parents. Girl 3, seriously. Girl 2, yes, in fact they say that he lives alone, that his parents abandoned him and that he lives and supports himself. Girl 1, it's really a bit sad. Girl 3, yes, poor thing, apart from what happened to him here at the academy, he has to live alone and without a family. Girl 2, if it's something sad, it's been a long time. Girl 1 and 3, yes, it is true. Girl 2, yes, it makes me sad that he is alone. The girls were talking about Issei. He just continued eating. After finishing, he got up and left the place. Being seen by the group of girls, they were surprised but didn't say anything. Issei, wow, it was good to eat. He said that this would be the way, and he looked out of a window of the academy and saw that it was still raining. Issei, wow, I like it. He went out into the yard and looked at the cloudy sky. This one was wet from the rain and remained expressionless. Issei, I like this, it's very relaxing. He looked out the window and saw several of the students. They had a sad expression on their faces, but he just ignored them. Issei, well, I'll have to go back to my classroom. He went back inside the building. He walked down a hallway. He saw the stairs that led to the roof of the school. He went up to the roof. Upon entering, he looked at the city, the clouds. He was contemplating the landscape. He didn't notice that a girl was looking at him sadly. She approached and spoke. Girl, Issei, it's you. Issei turned around and looked at the girl. This will be what it looks like. The girl who spoke to the black-haired boy was cute. Issei just looked at her neutrally. Girl, Issei, it's you look different. Issei just watched her and spoke. Issei, what do you want? He spoke in a neutral tone, something that made the girl feel bad. Girl, Issei, why are you like this? Issei, what do you want, Yuri? The one now known as Yuri looked at him sadly and spoke. Yuri, Issei wanted to talk to you. Issei was about to speak, but then the bell rang. Issei, I don't have time, so I'm leaving. Issei spoke in a serious tone and with a sad and somewhat serious expression. Issei began to walk through the halls of the academy. He arrived at his classroom. He entered and sat down in his place. He looked at the sky and saw Yuri entering the classroom. He just ignored him and continued looking at the sky. Issei's thoughts, wow, this day is very stressful, it makes me want to leave. He was inadvertently observed by Yuri and his sister. This is the appearance of Issei's sister, just imagine her with brown eyes and that's it. Izumi, my brother looks bad, he's not the same. Yuri, I know, I tried to talk to him but I didn't have time. Izumi, my brother has changed, he is not the same. Yuri, he is very ill, we have to help him. Izumi, I know, we'll try. With Issei, he just looked at the sky and the clouds. Chapter 4. Hello, you may be wondering why this is good. I will be brief. What I want to say is thank you for supporting my stories. I sincerely never thought that someone would like what I write. When I read your positive comments and other things, that motivates me despite my problems. I am glad to know that you like the things I write. I thank those who believed in me and even the first one who started following me. I sincerely thank you for your support. Hee and well, without further ado, I send you a hug and greetings wherever you are. Without further ado, I leave you with the chapter. I hope you like it. The chestnut tree looked at the window with sadness and tiredness. Issei, thoughts this day has been very tedious. I'll stop by the store. Issei looked out the window not knowing that he was being watched by his sister Izumi and his ex-girlfriend Yuri. After classes, Issei left the place a little late since it was raining, and he waited for more than half an hour to see if the rain would stop a little. Issei walked towards the exit of the academy while being wet by the rain, but he felt that sometimes the rain calmed him and relaxed him. He stopped and looked at the sky. The rain fell down his face, but he didn't care. After a few seconds, he lowered his head. Several of the students who were leaving late looked at him with pity and sadness. Several of them already knew that Issei did not have parents, or so they believed, something that filled them with regret for doing something that hurt Issei, and despite that, he never wanted revenge. Issei thoughts, because life is like this. My life has been complete garbage. First my parents call me useless, and then they lied to me in the worst way, and then they hit me for no reason. Boy, am I salty. He was just wet, but then he stopped feeling the rain water since someone had covered him with an umbrella. He turned to look, and what he saw bothered him slightly. Behind him was the person he least wanted to see. Issei, Yuri, he said in a neutral and emotionless manner. Yuri, Issei, what are you doing? You might catch a cold, he said in a worried tone and looking at Issei. Issei, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be with your boyfriend, he said neutrally. Yuri, what do you say if you are my partner? He said as he walked next to Issei. Yuri felt bad about what happened a long time ago, but she loved Issei and would get him back. Issei, that's not true. I'm not your boyfriend, so go and open your legs for someone else, because I'm not going to fall again. Yuri stopped him and spoke. Yuri, Issei, I know what happened was wrong, but please do it again like before. Issei, Yuri, you are the only thing that made me happy. But what happened made me realize that this world is cruel and that it will always hit you, and you were the one in charge of dealing the final blow. You ended our relationship." Yuri looked at Issei with sadness and held back the urge to cry. "Yuri, I know what I did is unforgivable, but I ask you as your partner to come back," he said on the verge of tears. "Issei, that's a lie. You and I are nothing, so leave me alone." Issei began to walk at a fast pace until a question from Yuri stopped him. "Yuri, what happened to you?" "Issei, you weren't like that. You were warm, kind, loving, faithful and gentle, someone who always smiled. What happened to you?" She was trying not to cry. "Issei, you know very well what happened. You made me like this and the others did it, so leave me alone." Issei left the place, leaving Yuri crying. Issei, thoughts how annoying. Issei walked while being wet by the rain. He did not give it importance. He arrived home and took a bath because otherwise he would get sick. After taking a bath, he put on black pants and a white shirt. He went into his room and started playing on his computer. The next day, Issei woke up slowly. He had only slept 5 hours since he was playing until night. Issei, another day. He got up and went to take a bath and prepare his lunch. He walked towards the academy. He saw the sky, which was clear. Issei, what a day, I hope, and it is very calm. Issei, upon entering, felt that they were looking at him. He did not give it importance, and went to his classroom. On the way he saw how several students looked at him sadly, and with regret. Issei, but how strange. Issei walked while feeling the atmosphere of sadness and regret. Issei, what's going on? Issei, upon arriving at his place, saw that his old table, which had insults and other things, was no longer there, and that there was a new one in its place. Issei, my table, he thought to himself. He looked at her carefully and spoke. Issei, while my table disappeared, it had a lot of insults. Well, what does it matter? He sat down and had some noticeable dark circles under his eyes that made him look somewhat downcast, and he was. At that point the class representative approached Yumikako. She looked at his expression and was filled with regret. It could have been him who changed his table. Issei, what do you want? He said it in a neutral way, since he and the rest of the group were the ones who painted his bench full of insults. I just wanted to know if you liked the new table we made, Issei-san, he said, waiting for her answer. Issei, what are they up to? He said, looking at the boy seriously. Issei, as you know, what we did to you was wrong, and this is a form of apology. I know we treated you badly and that you suffered because of it, but that's all. Another thing is that I and everyone in the group decided to help you. As you know, you are not affiliated with a club, and that is why we wanted to tell you that you can join any of the clubs and that you can join our activities, and that if you need help, just ask for it. It is a form of apology. Issei remained silent and looked at you with a dead look, and you, along with the rest of the class, waited for what Issei would say. Even his sister and his ex-girlfriend Yuri, as well as Irina, Zenobia and Asia, who knew nothing of what was happening. Issei, thanks but no. Everyone was surprised and you spoke. But why? He said, looking at the black-haired man. Issei, it's easy because I already expected this. You guys wait for me to let my guard down, and you'll do the same to me. No thanks. You was surprised just like the rest of the class. It's not that, we just want to redeem what we did. Issei, if that's so. Everyone was waiting for his answer. Issei, no thanks, since I like to be alone. Before you spoke, the teacher entered. It was Rossweiss. He went to his place and Issei just looked at the sky. Trailer. Life is so hard and corrupt, but the two of us can change it. Just take my hand and you will be someone new. Someone who has no feelings, someone who will no longer fall. We will be one God. We will be the God of this world. If I want to be alone. So get rid of those emotions and we will be invincible. Get rid of what is most. Why are you doing this? I thought. You thought wrong. I'm not a brat. I'll be the one who won't let himself be. I'll be a being without emotions. That's my goal. Because I don't know, forgive me. I will be someone new, a new being without emotions. And now he loses to me. Chapter 5. The black-haired boy looked at the sky with sadness. He still hadn't gotten over what Yuri had done to him. He remembered their dates, their promises they made for the future, like they would get married, have children, and how they would be happy. He even felt that she was the most beautiful thing that had ever happened to him, and he remembered how he gave her the ring. Flashback. A chestnut tree was seen sitting on a park bench near a fountain, and next to him was his girlfriend, the person he loved the most, and who was the pillar of his feelings and his heart was Yuri, his girlfriend. Yuri Issei. I speak nervously. Issei, what's wrong, Yuri? Yuri, Issei, you love me. Issei, of course you are the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to me. How could I not love you? He said in a way that I will distance myself, and with love. Yuri, seriously. He said affectionately. Issei, of course I don't lie. Yuri, and if you cheated on me, I don't know what I would do. Issei, you know I'm not like that, I will always love you, we even made a promise to get married and have children. He said nervously. Yuri, that makes me happy, Issei, I love you. She gave Issei a kiss which he reciprocated. Issei, wow, you're very affectionate today. Yuri, idiot. She said with a blush. Issei, hee I like to see that face. That made Yuri blush more. Yuri, Issei, you always make me like this. She said with a pout. Issei, calm down. Yuri, well, I have a surprise for you. Issei, seriously. Yuri, if you close your eyes. Issei, for what? Yuri, Issei closes them. He did as he said and closed them. Yuri, open them. Issei opened them, and what he saw surprised him. Issei, it's a ring. Yuri, if you like it. He said nervously. Issei, I like it. Looking at the ring. Yuri, and that's not all, I have one too. Showing off her ring. Issei, and what is this for? Yuri, these rings will be the seal of our promise. Issei, which? He said confused. Yuri, the promise that we will always be together, and that we will get married and have children. That made Issei look at her now. Issei, of course, that will be a promise I will keep. He said smiling and then gave her a kiss. End of flashback. Issei just looked at the sky and started to cry. He didn't show any expression, he just cried without showing any expression. He remembered all those good times and how he opened his heart to Yuri. This memory like this discovered how she was cheating on him, and how she was having sex with someone else when he hadn't even done it with her. So Issei was still a virgin. Flashback. After leaving there, he went to the park where they met, sat on a bench and began to cry silently. Issei, why is this happening to me? Seriously, life wants to see me alone. He was crying and suddenly, as if the sky sensed it, it began to rain. Issei, seriously, this is my destiny is to be alone. He cried until he got up. Issei, come on Issei, it was just a mistake. I don't think she was my true love. It was probably just a test. He stood up and smiled. Issei smiled. Issei, I'm sure it's just a test if that's what you mean. In that he remembers how they spent time together, how they had planned their wedding and what they would name their children. Issei, who am I kidding? He just went home and cried again. End of flashback. Issei cried as he looked at the clear sky. But he didn't realize that he was being watched by his sister and his ex-partner Yuri. Minutes before, Izumi and Yuri paid attention to Rosweiss class. Yuri, hey Izumi. I speak to her best friend. Izumi, what's wrong Yuri? He said while paying attention to the class. Yuri, how was Issei before? At that Izumi turned to look at her. Izumi, you want to know well. Yuri paid attention to him. Izumi, he was a very kind, gentle, kind person and always smiled. He always tried to protect me, but I always hit him, and I regret that. But he never erased that smile. On the contrary, he always smiled even though others bullied him and my parents insulted him or put him down. He always smiled, but now he is different. He is not like before, he is now cold. It is as if the old Issei had died," he said sadly. That's when you see how Issei was crying. "Yuri, what will happen to him?" "Izumi, I don't know, but I know he's really hurt," he said sadly, seeing his brother like that. At that moment the bell had rang, signaling that lunch had arrived. They saw how Issei left the place without saying anything and how he carried his lunch. Chapter 6. Issei left the classroom and went to the cafeteria where he was eating. He saw in the hallways how they continued to look at him with sadness. Issei, wow, this doesn't change. He did not give the matter much thought, and went to a table in the corner where no one bothered him. Issei, this is something relaxing. He ate calmly without showing any expression, he just ate. Issei, this is food. He was eating calmly, but then he looked up and saw his brothers. Yamato Temple. And his sister Izumi. With his older sister Hanako. He just ignored them and continued eating without doing anything. He saw that Yuri was with them. When they saw Issei, they were surprised. Issei had very noticeable dark circles and a sad and dejected look. When they saw him, they approached. Issei continued eating slowly, only thinking about his life. Issei, thoughts life treats me badly. I just hope it gives me a peaceful ending. He only had in mind to live a short time, and that was all. He had no plans for the future, just that. Izumi, brother. He looked up and saw Yuri and his brother Yamato, who were looking at him sadly. Izumi, hello, brother, he said with a slight smile. Yamato, hello, brother, he said a little seriously and looking at his brother. Issei, what do you want? He said neutrally while eating calmly. Izumi, we can sit down. Issei didn't say anything and continued eating. Izumi and Yamato along with Hanako and Yuri sat at the table and began to eat. They saw Issei. He had changed. He was not the Issei who lived with them when they were children. That child who always had a smile was no longer alone. There was an Issei who had no emotions. Izumi looked at her brother with sadness. She remembered how he protected her, and how he tried to make her laugh, and how he was always by her side even if she always insulted him or hit him. He was always by her side, and seeing him so dejected and defeated without any emotion was something that made her feel guilty because she could have avoided that. And with Yamato it was almost the same. He remembered how Issei always protected Izumi even if she hit him or insulted him. He felt bad because he never did anything for him even though Issei always helped him. He only regretted that. Hanako saw her brother. She remembered how he always hugged her, how he got angry if someone spoke badly of her, and when he was scared he would run to her and ask her to tell him a story and to never leave him alone. But she saw that that boy had died, leaving only what was once her brother, but she would make him come back to her side. And with Yuri she remembered how he was gentle, kind, loving, faithful and always smiled. She remembered how they swore to be together, to get married, to have a family and what they would name their children, but all that fell apart, and because of a mistake that cost her and Issei their happiness. Issei just ate. He didn't care that his brothers were there. He only dedicated himself to eating. He didn't care about anything anymore. He just wanted to live alone, not have to be with someone. Issei thoughts, what do they want? They are surely going to bother me as always. He finished eating and was about to leave, but then his sister Izumi grabbed him by the shoulder. He turned around and spoke. Issei, what do you want? He said tiredly. Izumi, Yamato, Hanako and I wanted to ask you if you wanted to go to karaoke with us, she said a little nervously. Issei, no thanks, I have things to do, he said tiredly. Yamato, come on Issei, it will be an opportunity to spend time with brothers. Issei, I'm sorry but I declined your offer. Hanako, come on Issei, it will be fun and you can distract yourself. Izumi, yes brother, we would have more time to get to know each other. Issei, no thanks, I have things to do. He left the place until Yuri spoke. Yuri, I know what I'll tell you. Issei stopped and looked at his ex-partner. Issei, I had bad luck and all that is the truth. He left there but not before speaking. Issei, life always hits you but it hit me very hard. I tried to continue but it hit me harder. He left there leaving the others sad. He walked through the academy without showing any expression, just a cold face. He walked through the halls until he saw Zenobia, Irina already next to Ravel. He just ignored them and continued on his way, but he was observed by Irina. Irina, what happened to Issei? Zenobia, I don't know. Asia, he looks different. Zenobia, he always looks like that, even his parents told him so. He said seriously. Irina, don't say that about Issei. Zenobia, even though it hurts me to admit it, he is weak. I know he always smiled and helped us overcome our problems, but we never helped him, we only made fun of him. He said sadly. Irina, but we can change that. Asia, Issei-sen is very ill, we have to help him. Issei heard their conversation but just ignored them. Issei, what a nuisance. He arrived at his living room and sat down in his place to observe the clear sky. Only the blue sky was what he saw. After lunch ended, Izumi and Yuri entered the living room and saw Issei. At that point the teacher came in and looked at the students. Teacher, young people, today we will have a new student. That made everyone surprised. Boy 1, it will be a girl. Boy 2, I hope you are pretty. Boy 3, I hope she doesn't have a boyfriend. Girl 1, I hope he's a handsome guy. Girl 2, I hope he's a foreigner. Girl 3, I hope he doesn't have a girlfriend. The teacher spoke. Teacher, calm down everyone. At that everyone calmed down and looked at the teacher. Teacher, you may come in. At that the door opened revealing a girl with orange hair and light blue eyes. Trailer 2. The ephemeral beauty that lasts only a blink of an eye is far more valuable. This life is cruel but I'm already used to it, and nothing will change. Why are you doing this? Stop please, I love you. Not me, because I'm dead. Why are you doing this? You could just leave and that's it, but why? Because simply nobody insults me, you heard me, imbecile, now die. Star Nexus. And you don't come closer to me. Because I want to be with you. Leave me alone and take this as a warning. Dark Flower. Why did you do that? It was just a normal thing. Shut up and stop bothering. Galactic Rain. While you're alive with this you might die. Demonic Fire. Wait for it. The Saga Darkness. Don't miss it. Ova 1. Hi everyone, it's me, Dark Dragon. I know I don't do this kind of things, but this is an exception. Well, the reason why it took me a while to publish the chapter was because I'm sick. Don't worry, it's not coronavirus XD. Yes, I have had insomnia and I have not been able to sleep well and I have not eaten much, and that has taken its toll on me since I feel very tired and very bad to the point of being very sleepy and about to faint. That is why I have not been able to publish this before. So I apologize for not doing this sooner, but as you know I'm not okay XD. And now I want to ask a few questions. They like this story? They like the plot it carries. Because they like it. They want me to make more chapters of this story. And finally, they like this Issei. Well, those are all the questions. And well, I'm going to tell you something else. Well, I want to tell you that most of those who read this and my other stories are not followers, at least the majority. So I want to ask you for something since I never ask you for anything. If you are not following my work, or in simpler words you do not follow my profile, I ask you to do so, and I know you will wonder why you should. Well, it's just so you know when a new story or new content is uploaded to my stories, and if you see that you don't like my work, you stop following me. It's that simple. I do this to see how many people like my work as a writer. And another thing I want to tell you is that you should go read the story of Isseiverse, a story of Isakura and me, so go read it. Without anything else to say, enjoy the OVA. Issei Hyoudou had suffered betrayal at the hands of the one he considered his girlfriend and future wife. Issei, Yuri, because why did you do it? I loved you, you were my everything, Yuri. He cried silently but with great pain and emptiness in his heart. He felt as if his heart was being stabbed over and over again. He felt enormous pain and hatred for himself for believing those words. Issei, because what did I do wrong? Was I not enough for her? Was it just an illusion? Was it just a game? Was it just a joke for her? He cried while looking at the photos of him and Yuri on their dates. He remembered the kisses, the I love you and the rest that made him fall more in love with her. Issei, why? He saw the photos and only felt more pain. Issei, why the buck does life treat me like this? Why the buck am I still alive? Why? He shouted those words with anger and sadness in his voice. Issei, why? He cried again and he just felt cold, a very strange cold. He was crying sadly and then he heard a voice. Unknown voice, boy, you are an idiot. Issei, who are you? Voice, you already know. Issei, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but this is not the time. Voice, but if you know who I am, or rather. Issei/voice, we are. He was surprised and spoke. Issei, who are you? At that point he fainted and fell to the floor. At that point he appeared in his mental space. Issei, what the buck? He continued walking until he saw something. It was Yuri and that boy having hex. Boy, you like it, he said arrogantly as he rammed into her. Yuri, yes, I like it a lot. Boy, and what am I to you? Yuri, you are my owner, I am yours. He was alone, Issei moaned, watching that with tears. Issei, that's enough. This scream and that scene disappeared. Issei, why? He clenched his fists, and then the same voice spoke. Voice, I know. He turned around and saw a black-haired boy with blue eyes smiling at him. Issei, who are you? Answer, damn it. He said with anger in his words. Voice, easy, you already know, I am not, better said, we are Issei. That surprised Issei. Issei, whoever you are, I don't believe anything you say. Subject, well, let me introduce myself, my name is Alone, I'm you. Issei, what do you mean? He now identified himself as Alone and responded. Alone, as I told you, I am you, I am that part of you that knew the reality, everything we suffered and lost, how our parents hate us and how our brothers hate us. In a few words, I am that which resides in you, I am the negative, the blackness of your heart. Issei was surprised and spoke. Issei, seriously? Alone, I already told you, I am you, in a few words I am the dark part of your heart. Issei, and why did you show me that? Alone, it's easy to show you your big mistake. Issei, my big mistake. Alone, if you knew everything we suffered and how life treated us, but it was still worth it for you and you decided to be with her. Issei, and I love her. Alone, do you really believe that? Issei remained silent, he knew it was true, he knew he had made a big mistake. Issei, and what do I do? Alone, easy. Issei, what? Alone, you have to leave all feelings aside, all love or emotions, you have to leave all that behind and be someone new. Issei, what? Alone, you will be someone who will no longer suffer, someone who will kill those memories, those feelings. Issei, what do I have to do? Alone, just take my hand and we will be one again, but I will die. Issei, why? Alone, as I told you, I will kill every memory, every feeling, every love will be erased, but in exchange I will die. Issei, I see. Alone, come on, take my hand and you'll be someone new. He extended his hand to Issei, who just looked at him for a few seconds. Issei, it's okay. He shook hands with Alone, who smiled. Alone, calm down, this will not happen again, and remember, in life you will always be alone and you have to be strong. Issei, thank you. Alone, you're welcome, wake up now. Issei woke up and was in his room, he just looked at himself. Issei, it must have been a dream. At that point he heard Alone's voice. Alone, it's not a dream, it's time. At that, a purple aura enveloped Issei, who stopped talking and showed a sad face which was now a cold face. Alone, goodbye Issei. Issei, goodbye alone. He said in a cold tone of voice. Alone, now you won't suffer anymore. Issei, thanks alone. Issei started to cry, but they weren't normal tears, they were tears of blood. Yes, Issei cried blood. Issei, goodbye alone. He only gave a slight moan. Issei, goodbye Hyoudou Issei. He continued crying bloody but without showing any expression. And her hair changed to a black color. Chapter 7. Issei didn't pay attention to the new student, he didn't care who she was or where she came from, he just wanted to be alone where no one would bother him, where he could be at peace. Issei, thoughts, wow, how annoying, I hope it doesn't bother me either, I already have enough with those idiots. What Issei didn't know was that the girl was looking at him in a hidden manner. Nora approached Issei, sitting next to him calmly after the teacher ordered her to take a seat. Issei only looked at her out of the corner of his eye and then looked at the sky before laying his head on his bench until the girl next to him spoke. Nora, hello, nice to meet you, I'm Nora, it's a pleasure. He said in a cheerful manner and with a radiant smile, looking at the black-haired man, who only looked at her and spoke in a neutral and cold manner. Issei, hola. This instantly turned to look at the sky and began to read a book which he carried in his backpack as if it were nothing. Nora, oh gosh, don't be like that with me, she said and then hugged him affectionately and happily. Issei, what the hell are you doing? Get away from me. He said this in an attempt to get the girl away, who did not argue, on the contrary, she hugged him tighter without letting him go. Nora, don't be like that, don't you see that being grumpy all day can make you old? She said, laughing like a girl. That caught the attention of several students who saw the scene, but especially a certain pair of girls who did not take that calmly. Yuri, what does that girl think she's doing by treating Issei like that? She said with jealousy and anger, since she had not been able to hug him in those moments, and she missed his warmth and his aroma. Izumi, that girl is very attached to my brother, she said, looking at the scene in a serious and somewhat angry manner. Meanwhile with Issei, he just wanted to let go. Issei, leave me alone, get away from me now. Issei was somewhat annoyed and had little patience. Nora, I don't want to, you're too hurt. She said. She was hugging him affectionately, and then slowly stroking his hair. Issei, eh? At that moment Issei calmed down, and without expecting anything he felt a blow to the heart unexpectedly. Issei, thoughts, what the hell is this idiot doing? She looked him in the eyes and then smiled and spoke to him in a sweet way. Nora, do you want to be my friend? This question made everyone look in astonishment, as no one had the courage to approach Issei or at least talk to him. That made Issei's ex even more upset to the point of breaking a pencil. Yuri, what the hell is that girl doing? She saw the scene and how Issei calmed down for a few moments. Issei just wanted to get out of that situation. Issei, no, now leave me alone, damn it. He exerted a little more force to get out, but the girl's strength was abnormally superior. Nora, not until you decide to be my friend. I'll give you candy and make you smile as a good offer. She looked at him without stopping to hug him. When she entered, she felt that something was wrong with the boy. Issei, having no other choice, only spoke in short words because he was starting to run out of air. Issei, yeah, whatever, let me breathe, damn it. Instantly Nora let go of him, allowing him to breathe normally. Nora, you see how easy it was to say it, it's progress. She looked at him in a sweet and cute way which made the black-haired boy turn around. Issei, yes, whatever you say. Instantly Nora saw him and began to look at him and examine him with her eyes. Hours passed and Issei just read his book calmly and with a neutral look. Chapter 8. In the harshest winter. In the dark and cold solitude. There will always be something more. In the harsh winter there will be a warm bonfire, and at the end a beautiful spring. And in the darkness there will be a light that will illuminate everything, and you will be able to see the stars of the night. Even in the darkness of the night there will be loneliness, but in the end there will be a beautiful sun that will illuminate you. The black-haired boy, after that scene that was so annoying to his eyes, only began to read, but still with that blow in his heart that he hadn't felt for a long time. Issei thought, what the hell is going on? What has this girl done to me? He was just thinking while Nora looked at him with a smile. Issei saw those eyes full of light and then looked away. Nora, do you want to go for a walk or something after class? She saw Issei and saw those lightless eyes in complete darkness. It was something she knew well. No one fell so low just because of a bad day or something similar. This boy had a broken soul and heart, no hope, no dreams, no motivation. Issei, okay, if that way I can get you to stop bothering me, I'll do it, I said, looking into her eyes and then turning my gaze back to her book without waiting for an answer. Nora, I'll keep bothering you a lot more, just don't fall in love with me. The latter made the black-haired man angry and at the same time blushed slightly, but in particular that caught the attention of Yuri, who heard the last thing since she was attentive to Issei. Yuri thought, what does that idiot think she's doing? Does she want to take Issei away from me? I won't let her. She watched the scene with jealousy and pure rage, clenching her fists tightly as she saw that Issei had no reaction, or so she thought, calming down. Meanwhile, Nora looked at him thoughtfully. The boy she saw was broken and exhausted, not physically but emotionally. She had seen many people and this seemed sad to her. How someone can suffer to such an extent that they wish for death was something very sad and depressing in her eyes, but she knew well that she couldn't speak or judge Issei's decision. After all, she still didn't know anything about him. Nora, hey Issei-kun, can I ask something? He said with his gaze fixed on the brown-haired boy's eyes, who didn't take his eyes off his book. Nora, what do you like? She was somewhat thoughtful and just waited for the brown-haired boy's reaction to know more and more about him. Issei, video games, he said in a cold and somewhat abrupt manner, and then looked at her for a few seconds and read again. Nora, oh wow, okay, thanks for answering me. Issei, you're welcome. He just responded and then read, but his sister and her ex just watched as the events unfolded in front of them. Yuri/Izumi, what the hell is going on? They both looked upset but could do nothing but watch, just be spectators of everything that happened. After all that, Issei decided to leave once classes ended. He walked slowly and calmly while looking at the cloudy sky. In those moments, slight rays of sunlight appeared between the clouds. To then hear a particular voice which ran towards him with a big smile. Nora, you won't escape from me. We still have to take that walk you promised. She was running after the brown-haired boy, who was somewhat annoyed and tired. He couldn't escape as the girl was running at high speed behind him, being watched by several students. Issei, I didn't promise and I just said it so you'd stop bothering me. He just continued on his way but only managed to look at Nora in front of him with a big smile, and maybe, just maybe by chance, the sun appeared adorning that big smile of the girl. She took him by the hand and started walking while Issei only saw her hair accompanied by a beautiful sunset and then heard some words from Nora. In the darkness there will be light. Without stopping walking, Issei hid his thoughts. Why is life cruel? You always try to give your all, to always move forward in your own way. You smile and carry on, but there are always people who insult you for no reason. They judge your way of being, your personality and other things. And your parents, no matter how hard you try, only see the bad things you do without seeing how hard you try. I spent my child alone. Without a father to tell me he loved me, without a mother to hug me or read me stories. He is alone. Why is life like this? Siblings? They are the same shit. Many people say, hey, everything will be okay, this is nothing, when they have no bucking idea of what I suffered. Whenever I tried to do things right, there was something wrong and people only focused on that. I always tried to smile, fake a smile so I could carry on. But that hitch, I thought everything would be okay with her. But in the end you are left alone. You are born and die alone. That's all. Why are we in this world? What is the purpose? Everything is total shit. But no matter what, no one will know what you feel or suffer. Alcabo, they are just thoughts. Chapter 9. Another day was seen in the beautiful city of Ko, Japan. a beautiful sun that accompanied the day in a peaceful way, people going to work, people opening their shops and stalls. It was the routine of many, but for a black-haired man it was a punishment, since someone was constantly shouting at his door. Nora, Issei! Issei! Wake up, sleepyhead! The screams of a girl did not stop sounding outside his house, being quite irritating and annoying. He wanted to continue sleeping since he did not want to get up. Issei, go away and let me sleep, damn it! He settled into bed to go back to sleeping comfortably, or so he thought until he heard something banging loudly on his door, and then heard screams again. Nora, wake up, you lazy bastard, or I'll slam the door shut right now. It's late, and if you don't get up we won't be able to leave together. Issei put his pillow on his head, but he still heard her screams and how she hit the door hard and then clenched her fists and screamed. Issei, I'm coming, damn it! He said the latter and then got up from his bed and opened the door, seeing Nora in front of him with a radiant smile. Issei, and why the buck are you bothering me? And how the hell do you know where I live? He said, quite annoyed, and then listened to the orange-haired girl. Nora, that's easy to answer, she said, entering her house and then sitting on her couch. Issei without further ado closed the door behind him and then listened to her. Nora, after you left me alone in the park near the academy, I followed you here and that's how I found out your home address. Issei thought about it for a moment, and it was logical considering this girl's personality and character. Issei, I see, well I don't want you to bother me again, understood? Clenching his fists, and with a serious look. Issei, I already have enough with everyone at the academy without you coming to bother the only place where I am at peace. He looked at Nora and then went up the stairs to his room. Nora, okay, but where are you going? She said curiously, looking at the black-haired boy. Issei, it's more than obvious I'm going to take a bath. I don't want to be like this all day. He went up to take a shower and change into his usual uniform and then went down the stairs with his backpack. Issei, wait here, it didn't take long. He spoke with Nora and then went to the kitchen to make something to eat for the academy, which was a sandwich and an orange juice, which he kept. Issei, let's go now and I hope you're happy with this. He looked at the orange-haired girl in a serious manner, and then opened the door for the orange-haired girl to come out. After that, he and Nora walked towards the academy with Nora humming a song in a happy and energetic way. Nora, and what are we going to do after school, Issei? Are we going to the park? Are we going to eat? Are we going to the movies? She kept asking questions to the brown-haired boy who was stressed and just started listening to music so he wouldn't hear the girl anymore. Nora, or do you want to go play video games? She looked at the brown-haired boy and then saw how he stood up upon hearing those words. Issei, I don't like going out except to buy clothes or food. Nora just smiled and then spoke happily. Nora, we can go shopping for clothes together, and if you like, we can buy something and prepare it at your house. She smiled at him and then took his hand and looked him in the eyes. Nora, look, I know it might be a bit irritating for you, but I know you're hurt, but I don't know why or why it happened. I want to help you get over that. This life is so beautiful to look back on. She looked at him and then gave him a hug. She was smaller than the brown-haired boy, so he looked at how Nora had her head on his chest. Nora, life is so beautiful. I'm not telling you to forget the past completely. After all, you learn from mistakes in the past to be better every day. I just want to help you. I want you to overcome those bad moments. She hugged him tightly and then looked into his eyes in a sweet way. Nora, and if you like, I can go with you to that future. I want to see how you forget that and see a smile on your face, and for that I will be here with you. Issei listened to each of the orange-haired girl's words, feeling a warm hug that he hadn't felt in a long time, but this one was different. It was more sincere than any other, and suddenly his heart beat again, feeling that stab in his chest and then getting a little nervous but not showing it. Issei, do you really want to be here? I recommend that you look for better things to do. Issei unconsciously began to hug her slowly, letting himself be guided by the girl's warmth. Nora just looked at those purple eyes and then hugged him again. Nora, I'm fine here, just let me do what I have to do. I prefer to be with you than with people who are only looking for something more than just friendship, or are only looking for me out of interest. She just smiled at Issei and then looked at him intently, and with a glance decided to speak. Nora, I'm fine here, because I know that you've suffered and gone through many bad things. I want you to trust me little by little, and together we can make your heart shine again. Issei just hugged her unconsciously, and then gave a small smile that was barely noticed by the girl who just smiled. Issei, do whatever you want, just don't bother me and don't do anything stupid. He separated from the hug and started to walk, but this time he stopped and looked at the girl. Issei, and about the clothes, we'll go tomorrow since I'm free. He walked away, being chased by the orange-haired girl with a smile. Unbeknownst to them, light was born from darkness and peace came from pain. Chapter 10. After that, the black-haired man and Nora arrived at the academy. Upon entering, several of the students saw them. She was the first girl who got so close to Issei, but they were also surprised that Issei was not aggressive or hostile towards her. On the contrary, he was serious and calm. Nora walked behind him with a radiant smile, then felt all the eyes and smiled mockingly and took the black-haired man's hand. He just stood up and then looked at Nora, who was waiting for his reaction. He just let go to continue walking. Nora, hey, wait for me, we're supposed to come together, don't be rude. She ran to then be by his side and continue walking. This left several with their mouths open due to the fact that the brown-haired man did not say or do anything when he saw how a girl took his hand. But in the distance, in a luxurious limousine, certain girls saw this with jealousy and anger. It was Yuri and her sister Izumi who had seen everything that happened. Yuri, that hitch, how dare she be near my boyfriend? She clenched her hands in pure anger as she watched them enter the building. Izumi, I don't like that girl in the least. I won't let her get close to him anymore. She looked at the orange-haired girl with some jealousy and anger. After that they entered the academy, followed by Izumi's brothers, who were minding their own business and did not see what happened. The black-haired man lay down in his place upon arriving, but the orange-haired woman just sat down and rested her head looking at the black-haired man. Nora, hey, did you not sleep last night? It could be bad for your health. She just looked at him and smiled, giving him a chocolate. Nora, here, maybe this will put you in a better mood. Issei looked at the chocolate for a few seconds, and then took it and ate it calmly. Issei, thanks for that, he said coldly and sharply, although with a certain kind tone. Nora just smiled and then looked in front. Issei just started reading his book as if nothing were happening, letting his mind travel and concentrate. After several minutes the bell rang, giving the signal to be in class. Nora, do you think there will be anything fun today? Or at least something interesting? Issei just looked at her stoically and coldly before speaking. Issei, I doubt it, but maybe. Issei was still in his world and Nora just watched him before starting classes. Issei was alone in his world, but Nora paid attention and quietly scolded Issei to pay attention. Izumi and Yuri only looked from time to time, but they only saw Issei, who was focused on his book. For some strange reason the teachers began to integrate Issei into their classes. Although he did not care, he had always been like that since he was a child, being an outcast and someone forgettable for most, even being someone unpleasant for several more. Nora, on the other hand, paid attention and answered the questions directed at Issei. Issei, thoughts why? Is this girl up to something? Is she trying to play with me? Is she trying to get me to lower my guard? Issei watched her. He didn't trust anyone but himself. He loved solitude, being someone who since he was little had been mistreated and abused by his parents and siblings as well as by people outside of them. He had developed a cold and calculating mindset over time. Nora, Issei? Are you okay? You look a little pale. The girl looked at Issei, who was somewhat pale and with an empty but at the same time lost look, seeming like he would explode, but he came to his senses to just look at her and nod, continuing the class. After several classes the break came. Issei took his lunch and left the place, going to one of the academy's trees where almost no one went except for the girls from the kendo club who beat him up. Issei just looked at the slightly cloudy sky, but with rays of sunshine. Issei began to eat. Nora was not with him because she was called by the student council, but Issei did not care. He liked the calm and peace that solitude gave him. Issei, thoughts why did this happen to me? There are days when I wake up tired. I wish I could go back to bed and not wake up. He said that while taking out sleeping pills from his pocket, and then shaking his head and putting them away. Issei, I will leave when life decides when I have to leave. I am not weak enough to do that. I have to be strong. I have to show that until the end life will not make me give up. He said that in a low voice and a serious and cold look. He continued eating calmly, and liked to be alone. He knew perfectly well what loneliness and mistrust were, always taking care of yourself, always distrusting everyone, that feeling that makes you doubt other people's words, that thought of doing everything by yourself. Even as a child, when he cried, he kept his pain to himself, distracting himself with other things, being someone happy. But as time went by, he slowly came to terms with that. There was no point in being with people who sooner or later would be a simple memory in your life, just as there was no point in worrying about anyone else. Each person had to worry about themselves, since in the end no one would be there in a completely sincere way. Even in death, many would be hypocrites, and speak good things about you even though they previously said rubbish and falsehoods. Human hypocrisy knew no limits, and he knew it perfectly. I knew what it was like to be rejected, to be blamed for something you didn't do, and then later to be spoken to as if nothing had happened, that feeling of hatred and anger that I always felt in those moments. He just lowered his head to continue eating while putting on his headphones and listening to music peacefully. But far away, a conversation was taking place in the student council. Nora, what do you want me to do? Nora had an annoyed face and a totally serious look as she looked defiantly at the girl with glasses who was in front of her, being Sona Citri. Sona, that's right, we want you to keep your distance from Hyoudou Issei, since his situation is external to what you originally came for. Nora just looked at her and then spoke. Nora, and who are you to order me around? You're just a woman who's in her sister's shadow. You have no right to order me around or command me. Sona was upset by that comment. He just looked at her. Just when the discussion was about to escalate, the door of the place opened. Chapter 11. Just at that moment the door opened, revealing Rias and Akeno, who only saw how both girls looked at each other, quite upset as well as a heavy atmosphere. Rias, what's going on here? Because both of them are fighting. Akeno just watched the situation expectantly. Something had happened with both girls for Sona to look so upset. Nora, tell this woman not to meddle in my grimoire affairs. What I do here during my time here is my problem. Sona, and that means having to talk to that guy? We both know that it's none of our business what happens to him. Nora, maybe, but you are the acclaimed president of the student council. It is your obligation to see what happens in this school, and from what I have heard it seems that you do not do your job well. Rias just watched the fight and then sighed and spoke. Rias, calm down both of you. If Nora says it's her personal business, then she has her reasons. On the other hand, Sona, the fact that Nora does something other than what she originally came to do is none of our business as long as it doesn't harm this city and this school. Sona just listened attentively, and then looked at Nora with a cold and cutting gaze. Nora, why are you staring at me so much? You know what I said is true. You didn't even pay attention to that boy's case. Or what, you can't do anything without your little sister? Or does she have to see everything for you? Nora just had a challenging look towards Sona, who was about to explode, but Rias intervened. Rias, Nora, enough, don't make this more complicated, just go. This matter is no longer up for discussion. You can continue with your day. Nora just left, and after a few moments she heard a knock on a desk. Sona, that damn thing really irritates me. Sona clenched her fists tightly. It was rare for someone to speak to her so boldly. It was like a reflex, and they usually fought on occasion. Rias, you started this argument by trying to get into her personal life and order her around. She's not doing anything that affects this place. Sona, you know very well that it's something serious. That boy Hyoudou Issei, there's something that puts me on guard of him. I don't know what it is, but what I'm sure of is that it's nothing good. Rias, are you referring to what happened a few months ago? The strange energy that was felt in this city? Sona just nodded and then had a totally serious and calculating look. Sona, that boy has something that makes him special and dangerous. I just have a feeling that we should be careful with him. Rias, you know very well that it is not like that. That energy was only because of a demon, and you were investigating about it for days and you did not get any information. Sona just sighed and looked at Rias. Sona, let's forget about that. What brings you here? I don't think you're here just to generously resolve conflicts. Rias, I didn't come for that. I came because in a couple of weeks the leaders' meeting will take place, and we need to be ready and prepare everything for that. Sona just sighed, stressed as she had several pending tasks and duties, both school and personal. Sona, it's okay Rias, I'll see that everything goes well. If there is a change of plans or similar, please let me know immediately. Rias, that's what I'll do, my entourage, and I will help in any way we can to make this less of a burden for you. She left the place directly towards her club and with a somewhat relaxed Sona but with a serious look. Sona, what are you hiding? Hide Issei. What's behind that look? She claps her hands together and after a few seconds returns to her business. After that fight Nora left there going to her classroom looking for Issei since she wanted to eat with him. Nora, thoughts, where are you Issei? As if the world would answer her question, she looked out the window seeing Issei in the yard lying on the grass. Upon seeing him she left as quickly as she could going to where the black-haired boy was. Upon arriving she lay down next to him, and then whispered. Nora, here I am Issei, did you miss me? He said with a sweet and soft voice. Instantly Issei stood up looking at the orange-haired girl with a smile. Issei, what the hell do you think you're doing? I don't like being disturbed when I'm resting, damn it. Issei just looked at her annoyed, and then lay down again. Nora, you have to wake up, what if a girl comes and seduces you? He said mockingly and dramatically. Issei, in this case nobody comes here, and second, the fact that I didn't tell you anything in the morning doesn't mean that I like you, you know. Issei just looked at her, and then calmly lay back down. Nora, and the fact that you yell at me doesn't mean I'll walk away from you. It just makes me want to stay with you longer. Nora just sat down and started eating while looking at the black-haired boy with a sweet smile on his face. Chapter 12. Issei walked out of the academy with Nora behind him, who had the same cheerful smile as always, but they were stopped by Sona and the rest of the student council, who looked at them seriously. Issei didn't care, so he walked past them ignoring them, but was stopped by Saji, who looked at him challengingly. Saji, what do you think you're doing? Hi to Issei. You think you're so cool by ignoring Miss Sona. Issei just removed Saji's hand from his shoulder and left as if nothing had happened, but he was pulled back by Saji. Before he could speak he received a strong punch in the face, falling on his back to the floor. Issei, don't touch me with your filthy hands, bastard. The fact that you are someone from the student council does not give you the right to touch me. Saji got up from the ground with a bloody nose and an annoyed look. Saji, you bucking moron, you know who my lady is. He approached to hit him, but before the blow connected, Issei hit him back in the jaw, sending him to the ground again. Issei, I know who you are, but that doesn't take away from the fact that you are a scumbag at the service of your master. Issei was quite upset. This guy was one of his biggest problems in middle school and high school, but now he wouldn't let himself be intimidated. Before they could fight again, Sona intervened in the fight by taking Saji by the shoulder. Sona, enough Saji, we didn't come here to fight, we came to talk to them, not to a street fight. Saji reluctantly agreed and cleaned the blood being examined by the council girls, who looked annoyed at Issei, who did nothing. Sona, I want you to apologize to him, you started this conflict. Issei just looked at her face and laughed lightly. Issei, you want me to apologize? Do you think I will? That pet of yours touched my shoulder, and the next time he does it again I'll break one of his fingers. He looked menacingly and coldly at Sona and her entourage. He only wiped his fist of Saji's blood and then began to leave. Sona, stop right there. Hi to Issei, this is not over. Issei stopped and turned to look at her more annoyed. Issei, don't use that shitty surname with me, you call me that again and I'll break your dog's hand. He left without saying anything else, being watched by Nora, who only looked at Sona annoyed and went after Issei. Issei, who the hell does she think she is, ordering me around? I'm not one of her dogs. Issei continued walking, and after a few moments he felt a warm hand take his hand. Nora, where are you going, Issei? Nora looked at Issei somewhat worried about him. Issei, where I go is none of your business, Now go home or go do whatever you have to do. Issei tried to remove his hand but only felt that strong grip on his hand, but it didn't hurt, it was something else. It felt warm and worried. Nora, look, I don't know how you feel, but I know you're not okay. Okay, I know you're upset about what happened a few minutes ago, and I understand that. To be honest, it bothers me too when people order me around. She took his hand and looked him in the eyes. Nora, but that's no reason to be angry with everyone. I'm not good at giving advice, but I can tell you that you shouldn't always be angry. She walked to a small bench in the park and laid Issei on her legs, stroking his hair. Nora, besides, you can get wrinkles from being so angry. She smiled in a mocking tone, but it wasn't like the other laughs that Issei had felt, full of mockery, hatred, satisfaction of seeing him suffer. This one had another objective, and it was to get a smile out of him. Nora, I'm here for you, okay? Maybe it's hard for you to trust me because of everything you've been through, so let's start little by little. She took both of the black-haired boy's hands and then gave him a sincere smile. Nora, I will earn your trust little by little, and not with words, but with actions. She just caressed his hair, and the whole time he just kept looking at that smile and those blue eyes. Issei wanted to talk, he wanted to say what he felt, but he just looked at her, and turned his gaze away, looking at the sunset. Issei, can you let go now? Nora, nope, I want to keep watching the sunset. She took Issei's head, caressing his hair without him being able to do absolutely anything. But in the distance a shadow watched them, seeing everything that was happening and then leaving. Person, I found it, I definitely found it, but it's not time yet. The shadow left the place and was followed by the night that little by little reigned over the beautiful city of Kuo. Chapter 13. Issei after that afternoon went home to rest, taking a bath and lying down on his bed. Issei, what the hell is wrong with that girl? He only remembered that smile and clenched his fists. He was so focused on his thoughts that at times he thought he could hear Yuri's laughter. Issei, what the hell are you doing here? Get out of my damn sight. He began to get upset, starting to breathe with difficulty, beginning to remember that day, and then his purple eyes shone for a few seconds. Issei, get out. He put his hands on his head, having several traumas of that day and of everything that happened in his life. After so much suffering, his mind ended up collapsing into madness and paranoia. But his mind barely had a small and thin thread that prevented his mind from falling into the void, and that was the desire not to give up. He no longer cared about his life, but he would not allow fate to win. Issei went to his drawer, taking out some pills which he took, desperately calming those voices in his head, which dissipated. Issei was sweating cold, and had a lost look. Issei, he's gone, I'm alone. He just went to take a bath again and lay down in his bed trying to sleep, but without success, but he took sleeping pills and managed to rest. POV Issei. That voice, that damn voice torments me. It talks to me, it motivates me, it laughs, it insults me, its memories tear my soul apart, they destroy me every second. I can't stop thinking about it, about everything it made me suffer after that. My life went to hell because of them. I helped them, I encouraged them, I did everything for them, and in the end no one was there. It was easy for them to ignore everything until the storm passed. I feel hurt, injured, devastated, I feel bad, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to think. I feel broken. He denied everything he said, the lump in his throat only grew bigger. His thoughts invaded his dreams. He knew what it felt like, feeling alone despite being surrounded by people, that the people he loved treated him less, that they simply didn't care what people said about him, keeping everything in his mind and crying at night, crying when no one was looking. Suffering in silence, and then wiping away his tears and thinking of funny things to distract his mind. He knew what he kept and how hypocritical people were, how they said they were there for him, and how they made fun of him, or made light of his problems, how he looked for things to entertain his mind. He knew what it felt like to be so broken to the point of having thoughts of insecurity and rejection towards everything. Having to pretend that his problems weren't there. I knew what he felt. Being alone and having people around. Normal POV. Issei woke up from that dream in the morning, taking a bath and putting on his clothes and then having breakfast, and then brushing his teeth, leaving his house for the academy. Issei on the way began to listen to music to distract himself and make his mind travel through his thoughts. He arrived at the academy without paying attention to anything, but then a luxurious car parked in front of the academy and Nora got out, who without thinking much ran straight towards Issei, who only dodged the hug but took her by the arm to prevent her from falling face first to the ground. Issei, now what are you doing, idiot? Issei stood her up and then looked at her, looking at that smile and the luxurious car. Nora, since I couldn't go to your house, I thought that if I came by car I would find you at the entrance, and here you are. She took him by the hand, but it was shaking slightly while she held his other hand, which was normal. Nora, Issei, are you okay? Is something wrong? Issei just let go of her hands, taking his things and walking without saying anything towards his classroom. When he arrived, he sat in his seat, being one of the first to arrive at the academy. Issei, what do you want now? Why are you looking at me? Issei looked at Nora, who was looking at him carefully, observing his body, somewhat worried. Nora, Issei, are you okay? Is something wrong? Does your head hurt? Issei, no, nothing's wrong and my head doesn't hurt. He just laid his head on the table, and after several minutes the students began to arrive and the first teacher entered. The classes were going as normal, with Nora bothering Issei on occasion, and with Issei ignoring all her attempts and the hateful glances from his ex and his sister. But in his backpack fell some pills which he carried, which was noticed by the teacher and Nora, who looked at the label, seeing that they were some painkillers, but saw something inside that surprised her. He had sleeping pills. There were 4, of which 2 were empty. Teacher, young Issei, what does this mean? He said, showing the pills he had in his hands. Issei was so concentrated and sleepy by the pills that he didn't even know what was happening, and then he saw the box and tried to take it, being stopped by the teacher, who took out the 3 that were inside his backpack. Teacher, what the heck does this mean? You have this in your backpack. All the students saw that and were surprised by it. They saw Nora, who had an expression of surprise and sadness. Meanwhile, Yuri recognized those pills immediately. Issei, what thing? That? He said, pointing at the pills as if they were nothing, something that surprised several people because he didn't even care. Issei, they're pills, have you never seen one? The teacher looked angrily at Issei but saw a 5 in his backpack, which he took out to read, and his expression changed. He read on the label, they were antidepressants that Issei had. Teacher, let's go to the principal's office. He just took Issei's backpack, who didn't say anything, and went with him without any expression. Nora tried to go, but Issei just watched her for a few seconds. Nora just sat down, but on the other side Yuri had an expression of surprise and terror. He knew what each one of those pills were. He just clenched his fists and stood up, leaving the place. Issei just walked, being watched by a few students. Issei, upon reaching the east direction, sat on one of the sofas there and looked at the director in charge. The teacher began to explain everything and then showed the pills and empty bottles. Director, young Issei, do you have any explanation for this? You know how serious this is. Issei just looked at him and then smiled slightly and spoke. Issei, I know what they are and what they are for. I'm not an idiot, you know. Issei was just serious, and with a cold look, the director just watched him. Director, young Issei doesn't have to resort to this. There are many ways to deal with it. Issei, don't come with your false kindness and attention. We both know that it's not like that. You didn't even do anything about the rumors. You didn't do anything about everything that happened, and now you come to talk to me about this? Ha, it's funny. Don't come with your charity. I can handle it on my own. Before the director could say anything, the door opened. Chapter 14. The door opened, revealing Sona sitting next to Saji, who was looking at Issei with fury due to what happened that day. Sona only adjusted her glasses and then spoke. Sona, Director, I have come to testify on behalf of young Issei. She just took out some papers and gave them to the director, who just looked at Sona. Director, and what is this, Miss Sona? Sona, they are papers that confirm that Issei needs those medications, due to everything that has happened in this long time, plus the accident he had when saving a student from the Kendo Club, and above all the events and false rumors which led him to a strong degree of stress. The director reviewed the papers, verifying that everything the brunette said was true, and then he just looked and talked. Director, very well, but you know very well that I can't let something like that go by. just for some papers. Sona, I know that well. I will take responsibility if something happens regarding those medications. Sona had a serious expression. The director just sighed and then looked at Issei and spoke. Director, you may leave, young Issei. Issei just stood up and then walked through the hallways calmly and slowly holding the medications, taking 3 antidepressant pills, and then felt someone's gaze. It was Sona and Saji who approached Issei. Saji, you should at least thank the president for saving your skin. He grabbed him by his shirt and then looked him in the eyes, before receiving a blow to the chin. Issei, my hero, how noble, you did not stop the rumors from spreading damaging my image, you did not try to look for clues about what happened, you searched as long as you wanted and protected the identity of that imbecile. He bent down, grabbed Saji by the hair, and then slammed his head into the ground. Issei, that you, the one I considered a friend, would turn your back on me, that you would let the girls in that club beat me up and that Sona wouldn't do anything or notice. He looked at Sona with a dead, cold face and then smiled in a macabre way. Issei, and I'm the villain in this story, ha ha how funny, now you asked me to thank you, you really seem like a hitch. He just stood up and then left Saji and left the place. Sona just watched. She had found out a few days ago about everything Saji had done, and it seemed right to her that the black-haired boy should take out his anger and rage on her. After all, he is one of the several who broke that poor boy. She just left Saji in the infirmary. Sona, what are you becoming higher to Issei? Why do you still maintain your self-control? She thought and had a slight idea of why. Sona, so beauty will rule the beast. She left for the council room without saying a single word. With Issei. Issei walked towards his classroom. He looked at his hand, which stopped shaking. He walked until he reached his classroom, receiving the looks of his classmates. He did not care and went to sit down, and then felt someone take his hand. Nora, calm down Issei, relax. She noticed the hatred in his eyes, so she just took his hand, watching as those eyes calmed down. Yuri just watched sadly since Issei once took that kind of medicine a long time ago. After a few minutes the teacher arrived and the classes continued, being very boring, but something caught the students' attention, and it was the day in which the parents would come to school to see their children. Issei, it's not like anyone's going to come. Those days were boring for the black-haired boy who just looked at his book. After that the same thing always happened for Issei. At the exit, Issei left alone since Nora had stayed to arrange some things for the day in which the parents would go to the academy, which would be tomorrow. Issei, thoughts what's for dinner today? Salad? Chinese noodles? He thought but felt someone's gaze in the shadows. He didn't care. He wouldn't do anything as long as he didn't mess with him. Subject, I see him. He's walking. It seems like he doesn't know anything. He hasn't seen or heard me. He left from there, going to an unknown place. Issei went to buy things for his kitchen and other things since he was hungry. Issei left there going to his house and thinking that he would see the least desired people in the world tomorrow. Chapter 15. It was morning, the stalls were opening their doors and people were starting to go to work, and students were going to school. A black-haired boy was dressed in the most normal way. It was somewhat early, and he wanted to arrive as early as possible to avoid running into the Hyoudou family. He would have to see them today. Issei, thoughts please don't be as stupid as your children. He got ready and took some things along with his lunch. He closed the door of his house and then put on his headphones and went straight to the academy. When he arrived there were almost no students. There were only several teachers and 1 or 2 students. He just sighed as he walked to his classroom, being watched by several parents and teachers since his parents were not with him. And besides, he had an intimidating and cold look and aura. Several of the parents thought he was a bully or a harasser. Some teachers knew him before everything that happened, and it made them feel a bit sad and pitted to see a brilliant, happy student with a great future fall, to see his life ruined unfairly. But that was the past, and nothing could change it. Issei arrived at his living room and then started listening to music. Starting to draw in a black leather notebook with gold frames, he drew a wolf. In his dreams he always saw a wounded and bleeding wolf, but with a look of pure hatred in its wildest state. He only growled and watched Issei. The only thing Issei did in those dreams was watch the wolf go to die somewhere else, After finishing the drawing, he saw that several of his companions were already there with their parents who were only talking to their children. He just closed his eyes. There was little time left for the people he least wanted to see in this world to arrive at the place. He just looked at the sky and then whispered seriously, "Issei, here they come." In those in front of the academy, a luxurious limousine next to several cars which guard the limousine, and from it came out a woman with hair as black as the night and blue eyes. Then a brown-haired man with eyes of the same color came out with a serious look, and then his children came out. The black-haired man's brothers looked at their parents with admiration. They were strong and powerful people. They came out and several bodyguards were behind them, but then the woman spoke. "Woman, don't worry guys, we're fine. We want to be alone with our children." The men were going to talk, but the brown-haired man spoke. "Man, listen to my wife, we're fine. If something happens, we'll let you know." The man looked at his 3 children in a serious and analytical manner before speaking. "Man, he studies here?" "Right." The 3 brothers just nodded and their mother just spoke. "Woman, I want to see my child. I haven't seen him for a long time." They entered and the limousine left the place, and after a few minutes another equally luxurious limousine arrived with cars that guarded the limousine. Yuri got out of it with his mother and father, who saw the academy. Her mother had a serious look and a smile that was a little scary to most people. "Mother, I hope you meet my expectations, Yuri. You know that you must always be very good at everything." He said this and then looked Yuri in the eyes. Then his father spoke. "Father, returning to the place where I studied feels strange and nostalgic. I hope my daughter moves on." Yuri just smiled and then walked alongside her parents into the academy. The Hyoudou family first went to the upper classes to see and review their children's classes. They were happy with what their older children were doing and how they were slowly growing. Meanwhile, Yuri's family took their time to look around the academy and see how much it had changed in all the years that had passed. After that, both families went to the middle classes of the academy where their children studied. When Yuri's family arrived, they saw the place, and then saw their daughter's classes, and the Hyoudou family saw their daughter. The 2 families never really got along, but their daughters were friends, so for the time being they kept their rivalry away from each other. Izumi's parents looked for someone but saw no one. Then Yuri saw Issei alone since Nora was not in her seat. She only saw that hair as black as the night and those purple eyes. Issei just read his book and put his head on his desk looking at the sky, wandering in his mind. The professor began to say the names of the students one by one, but then Nora entered. "Nora, sorry I'm late, I was in the principal's office." She entered and then sat in her place and saw Issei. He just smiled and started playing with her hair. Issei did nothing since he had gotten used to Nora always playing with his hair. The teacher kept saying names until he got to the black-haired boys. "Teacher, Issei, young Hyoudou Issei." Chapter 16. "Teacher, Issei, young Hyoudou Issei?" He didn't answer, he just looked at his bench. His mind was not in this world, but someone brought him out of his thoughts, and it was Nora who put her hand on his shoulder, bringing him out of his trance. "Nora, hey, they're talking to you." "Teacher, Issei Hyoudou." "Issei, here I am." He only said those words and then returned to his thoughts, lowering his head and letting his hair cover his eyes. Several students were in shock. That meant that Issei was the brother of Izumi and the 2 Hyoudou brothers who were in higher grades. Or maybe it was a coincidence that they had the same last name. Nora just looked at Issei. She knew her parents would come, so she did that to make Issei take a weight off his shoulders. If she continued to keep things inside, she would continue to have hatred and resentment. Issei was someone who fought his inner demons and his chains from the past. Nora knew that right now Issei was scared and didn't want to show it. He was nervous and had doubts in his mind. The brown-haired boy's parents just limited themselves to observing him. It was not easy to process that their son would change physically. He had his mother's black hair, but those dull purple eyes stood out more. The chestnut's father just looked at him seriously while his mother was visibly worried about him. It was not easy to assimilate that the son she could not see for so long was in front of her. She only saw him from time to time since her mother spent her time traveling, since she was known as a great historian and archaeologist who was passionate about her work. Issei's hair was a little longer, and he felt tired, discouraged like every day. but something in him was developing. Remembering his life, he knew he was alone. His immaturity and joy was a bandage that only hindered him. Little by little he realized the cruel reality. He was alone in this world. Family, friends, love, brotherhood, all of that was just false and just something that passes like a shooting star. When he needed a hug, his family just minimized his problems, saying it was just because of a girl, or that he was just someone who didn't know about life. He cried in his room and stared at the sunset, crying because he dreamed of the family he would never have, that his dreams and happiness were just a crude patch of dream in reality. Little by little he realized that. Sadly, he was alone. He just wanted a sincere hug. He wanted someone to take him out of that abyss, remembering times when he spent his birthday alone buying a small cake on which he put a candle and blew it laughing to hide his pain. No one in all these years had noticed anything. Issei, that happy boy, only laughed so as not to cry. In the few birthdays he had with his family, he received fake smiles. He just wanted a shoulder to cry on, but he knew he was alone. The students only talked to their parents and did their best to make their parents proud. The daughter of the Hyoudou only demonstrated why she was their daughter, showing her intelligence and ability, standing out. Yuri demonstrated his great ability and intelligence, but above all his passion for learning. The skills he had regarding painting and history made his parents proud. Nora only demonstrated having intelligence and skills in language, history, and especially in music. Issei was simply in his world. He drew or ignored the teachers who tried to integrate him into the classes, but in art class Nora forced him to make a painting. Issei concentrated thinking about his life, capturing his emotions in the painting, which when finished Nora looked at it as well as the teacher were surprised. He just put down the brush and then looked at her closely and whispered a few words that no one understood. Issei just took the painting and then put it in a remote place. "Teacher, you have talent, young Issei." Issei just watched her. She had been one of the few teachers who trusted him and believed in his innocence. "Issei, thank you." He just said that and then sat down and returned to his world and his thoughts. Nora just watched and smiled slightly and then finished painting. The teacher just looked at the painting and talked to Nora. "Teacher, beautiful painting, miss, but what does it mean?" This stepped forward to Nora along with her painting. All the parents and students looked at Nora. Nora represents someone who fought with strength and courage, but who even on her knees seeks the light in her darkness. She just smiled and then looked at her painting. Nora, she is someone who, even knowing that she lost, continues fighting in the shadows with the hope of seeing the dawn. Issei just heard that and looked at the painting and then saw Nora, who had that radiant smile like the first day she came into his life. After that came the break and Issei went out as usual to that tree that accompanied his solitude. He went out without his parents and sister being able to get close. He was eating peacefully in that tree and then felt the gaze of someone who sat next to him. Chapter 17. He was eating quietly in that tree and then felt the gaze of someone who sat next to him. "Nora, can I sit down? Or are you busy?" He said he was there to watch Issei eat calmly and quietly while watching the sky. "Issei, do as you please, just let me eat in peace." Issei just stepped aside. Nora, understanding that, sat down in such a way that her dress covered her legs. "Nora, hey Issei-kun, can I ask something?" Issei just limited himself to observing and speaking to answer his question. "Issei, what do you want to know? Is it something about the school or the city?" "Nora, no, it's nothing like that, I just want to know something about you." She paused slightly before looking him in the eyes and speaking. "Nora, what is your dream? What drives you to keep going?" Issei finished eating and looked at Nora in a serious and carefree manner. "Issei, I don't have any dreams or goals, and answering your other question, it's simple. I do it because I'm not a coward who takes the easy option. I'm worth everything life wants to make me suffer, but it will never knock me down." Issei finished speaking and then looked at Nora with a serious expression and asked, "Issei, and you? Do you have a dream? A goal? What do you want?" Nora saw him and smiled before putting her head on his shoulder. "Nora, I want to see a world in peace, without wars and innocent people suffering because of the greed of others. I look at the sky with determination and a smile. It had something that Issei had already lost, and that was hope. Nora, and my goal right now is to see that you get your smile back and that you can move forward, forgetting the past and looking to the future. She hugged Issei again. Previously Issei would have pushed her, but now she let him hug her. Issei, I see, but now let me go. Nora, nope, I want to be like this a little longer. Nora put her head on the black-haired man's chest, feeling comfortable and relaxed. If someone saw them, they would think they were a couple or something, but they both only had a friendship. After that they both ate quietly, watching the birds fly by and Nora counting clouds as she could. Nora, tell me why. Come on, please tell me. Issei, no, I already told you over and over again no, Nora. Nora insisted that Issei answer her question insistently. Nora, do you have a birthmark? I think it's on your butt, let me see. Issei, I already told you that I don't have any birthmarks for the 1000th time, Nora. Forget that already. Nora kept insisting that he show his birthmark, or at least that's what she thought. After that they both went to walk in the academy courtyard, seeing the parents, with their children. In that he saw his parents in the distance entering the occult council, but he did not care. He was being watched by Yuri, who was observing him from one of the academy's windows while she was drinking tea with her parents. Yuri's mom, who are you looking at, Yuri? She said curiously, looking at her daughter who kept looking towards the patio. Yuri, no one, Mom, I'm just seeing the beautiful day. He said this while drinking tea calmly, or trying to. Yuri's mother, I'm glad you're better. A few months ago you wouldn't stop crying and asking for forgiveness. I'm glad you're okay now. He said, putting his hand in his daughter's hair with a smile. Yuri just smiled, and then her father arrived. Yuri's dad, what are you talking about so much? Oh, you're welcome, dear, women's things. I'll put Y and P, Y for Yuri's parents while I look for names to give them. Issei continued on his way with Nora until the bell rang and they went to their classroom and sat passing the time in classes and other things until finally the last class arrived and they left the place. Issei was walking alone since Nora had to leave because she had some pending matters to attend to with her father. Issei continued walking, and then at the entrance of the academy he saw the luxurious limousine of the Hyoudou family parked and guarded by several cars. He just shrugged his shoulders without having any expression and left from there. Seconds later his parents came out and saw him and then approached Issei, who put on his headphones and continued walking without listening to his parents, who were calling him frantically. He felt someone touch his shoulder and then make him turn around abruptly. I'm talking to you, don't ignore me. Chapter 18, A Wounded Wolf. I'm talking to you, don't ignore me. Issei was abruptly flipped over from his shoulder by a subject. When he turned around he saw one of his father's bodyguards who had a serious and threatening expression. Subject, I'm talking to you, you damn brat, listen to me and come with me, my boss wants to talk to you. He turned to look at his father, who had a serious, and at the same time calm expression. Upon seeing him their gazes crossed and for a moment the atmosphere felt tense. Issei, tell your boss that I won't go. If he wants me to go, he should come and tell me to my face. Issei did not hesitate to speak and had a serious expression, but he was hit by the subject, who knocked him to the ground. Subject, who do you think you are to talk about my boss like that? You don't even know who I am. Issei cleaned his wound and stood up to then speak. Issei, you are a hitch at the service of your lord. I'm not surprised that your tongue is dirty from licking his shoes. After saying that, Issei gave the guy a strong punch, causing him to fall backwards to the ground abruptly. Issei, and I also know that right now you will be my punching bag. He said this and then stood on guard and looked at the subject with a murderous look. He looked like a wolf looking at his next victim. At that the subject launched himself against Issei, who only dodged and blocked, and then gave him a strong counter blow to the jaw and a hook to the stomach, causing the guy to fall to the ground on his knees. Issei grabbed him by his hair and gave him an upward blow full on the jaw. Issei after that only looked at the subject and then saw his father with a look full of hate inside him. Of all, his father had been one of the worst, and who destroyed his soul every time he could. Both exchanged glances, both looking like wolves about to kill each other, but in that Issei saw someone out of the corner of his eye, being Yuri and his parents. Issei, Next time you want to talk, have the courage to come directly and don't send one of your pets. Or does the head of the Hyoudou clan not have the guts he boasts about? Issei, after saying that, left without looking back. Without knowing it, he had an intimidating and at the same time dark aura. He looked like a wolf about to bite. He was an injured wolf that would use its last strength to kill any prey or enemy it saw. Issei left there, but there was something different about him. His dull eyes had a slight flash as if something had turned on inside him. Yuri and his parents left without looking at the Hyoudou family. Meanwhile, his parents were amazed by what their son had done. But now his father, the little wounded puppy, stood in front of the ancient wolf. Before, he would never have thought that the last and youngest of his children had the guts to say those words. His brothers were amazed by the audacity and courage of their brother to speak like that to their father. His mother was only worried about the black-haired boy. He was her little boy, her baby, and she had hardly ever been able to be close to him. She would take care of him no matter what. The bodyguard that Issei hit got up with the help of one of his companions and wiped the blood off. Subject: that brat's fists are hard, they almost look like stone. Boss, do you want us to teach that brat a lesson? He said this seeing his leader and boss. Issei's father was someone respected both inside and outside the criminal underworld, since he did not hesitate to attack like a wolf, and in the supernatural world he was known as the last wolf, because almost all of his family had died young, and he and his mother were the only ones from the clan left alive. Until he married his now wife and they had children who had that wolf blood within them. His children were strong-willed and determined, being territorial with what was theirs and with great pride and skill in magic. But that brown-haired boy, now black, was different. He was not like his brothers, being someone kind and affectionate with everyone, attentive and sweet, being kind to those who needed it, never showing a strong character or at least determined. Although his father was upset, he let it go, but the breaking point was knowing that the last of his children did not have that seal of his family, the great reserves of magic that the entire clan had. He got fed up with this one and wanted to make him tough by force, but it didn't work. He even looked happy even though he was suffering. After so many years he realized something. He was kind to his allies, but maybe he would be ruthless with his enemies. Now that he had seen his son in action, he proved it, but he also showed him that he was no longer afraid of him. In fact, it seemed like he wanted to kill him. That weak son was now a wild wolf. Issei's father: "No, don't do anything, leave it." They just followed his order, and his father just watched his son go into the distance, seeing in him a wolf that was limping. He was a wounded wolf. He left there, but with the image of his son staring at him, but he also looked at a wolf full of scars, looking with eyes of hatred and murderous instinct. He just smiled and left, knowing that his son was now a wolf. Chapter 19. Issei went there clenching his fists, wanting to scream and hit something out of anger. He was quite angry and upset that it seemed like he would kill someone. He was walking, and after a while he arrived home, took off his uniform and took a bath. He went down the stairs and started to make himself something to eat. He still remembered his father's look and his mother's face, which only made him angrier, but he repressed his anger and finished cooking and started to eat. He went to walk down the street already changed, without knowing that he was being watched by a shadow in the distance. He continued walking until he reached the fountain where a fallen angel had killed his sister in the past. He sat down while his hair covered his eyes, giving him a mysterious touch, while several girls from different schools looked at him as they passed by. He realized this and stood up to leave, but when he stood up he saw someone in front of him. "Nora, what are you doing here? Are you going somewhere?" Nora was in front of him with that smile she always had on her face. "Issei, I should say the same. What the hell are you doing here?" Issei just watched, waiting for her answer since he didn't trust the girl. "Nora, I was heading to your house and I found you here." Nora got closer to him, sitting down, and Issei spoke. "Issei, and what do you want? Why were you going to my house?" "Nora, to spend time with you. You promised that we would go shopping for clothes and other things, but we never did." Issei remembered the time he said that, and sighed tiredly. "Issei, fine. I always keep my word. Come on, just wait and I'll go get money." He went to his house taking his wallet, and leaving only to see Nora sitting in the park. He just walked by and followed her to the mall. Both of them upon arriving went to buy clothes for Nora, which each outfit she put on fit her well, while Issei was just sitting looking at his options. Several girls looked at him and tried to get closer, but when they saw Nora with him they decided on the idea since they were both a couple. Issei after that went to buy some new clothes along with a new backpack. Nora accompanied him to each of the places. After that they arrived at a fast food place where they sat down to eat something and then returned to the brown-haired boy's house. Issei ate without paying attention to the orange-haired girl, and instead she just watched as he ate. Nora, Issei, why did you fight at school? Issei just looked up and saw the girl in confusion. Issei, what do you mean, Nora? Nora set her eyes on the black-haired boy and spoke. Nora, I heard that you had a fight with a man. Did he do something to you? Or threaten you? If so, I'll talk to someone. Issei, that's none of your business. Nora, of course it is. I care enough about you to help you with whatever you need, because you can always count on me. Issei, you're not a hero or anything like that, stop trying to act cool. Nora just sighed and looked at the dark-haired boy. Nora, a hero is someone who, through an act of generosity, whether he succeeds or not, is capable of consciously sacrificing himself to protect others. Issei saw those blue eyes full of life and joy, since at some point he had also said that. Nora, I'm not a heroine or anything, I'm just trying to help someone in need. She smiled at Issei and then stood up and put her finger on her forehead. Nora, a hero uses his mind and listens to his heart. Nora pointed to his head and chest and then looked into his eyes. Nora, and I tried to heal the hero. She smiled at him in a sweet way and then sat down and ate again. That's how time passed before they left that place and walked to their respective homes to rest. Issei, what kind of shit is that girl talking about? She must be a complete idiot to think that. Issei said, taking off his clothes and revealing several scars on his body and chest. Issei, hero? Salvation? That girl has read many fantasy books. Issei sat on the edge of his bed clenching his fists. Issei, in this world you will never be able to save everyone, there will never be true peace, there will never be love and shit like that. He only tightened his grip on her hands. Issei, no matter what you do and how hard you try, in the end they will only see the slightest mistake you make, those trash will never see the rest. Issei clenched his hands remembering his entire life and began to shed some tears without having a fixed expression. Issei, they don't care about anything, no matter how you try to show it, they will pay more attention to others than to you, they will pay attention to the opinion of others than to you. He hit the wall hard, drawing some blood from his hand. Issei, what a garbage society. He just took a bath and went to sleep all night with something on his mind. This society will always judge you for the smallest mistake. Chapter 20. Issei just got up and then got dressed and left his house alone, walking to his school, showing that look without any shine and with a total cold seriousness. This path, after a few seconds he felt someone looking at him and then turned around and saw nothing. He was careful and left from there trying to find that person, but there was no one there. He left while a shadow watched him go away while he looked surreptitiously to the sides. Subject, so you finally realized, this is interesting. He left there in a quick movement, almost disappearing. Issei continued walking and after only a few minutes of walking, a kind of blue portal swallowed him up, disappearing from the place with no one in sight apparently, but with a single witness, a white-haired girl who followed the black-haired man. Kaneko, I must report this to the president. She left from there and went to Rias to report what had happened. With Issei. He had woken up in a completely dark place, slightly illuminated by a torch that was above him. He stood up, looking around and then heard a peculiar and quite familiar voice. Alone, it's been a while, right? He said to come out from the shadows of the place standing in front of Issei with a smile, while Issei saw him and spoke. Issei, how are you alone? It's been a while since that time. He said this, trying to get closer, but he could only move within the small range of light from that torch. Alone, I know he and about last time I think it was a mistake. He said something in a serious manner that caught the black-haired man's attention. Issei, what do you mean? That it was a mistake? Alone, that's it, that was a mistake. He pointed to his heart and a seal and then pointed to his purple hair and eyes. Issei, what do you mean? This wasn't a mistake, it was what had to be done. Alone, it was a mistake because of one thing, Issei. Issei, what thing? The hair? The eyes? The attitude, perhaps? Alone, your emotions and feelings, I never should have done it, because you should have gotten over that on your own. Issei, what the hell are you talking about? Were you the one who told me and I accepted? What is wrong with that? Alone, betrayal, heartbreak and pain are feelings that you have not overcome, they have only been repressed, you never got over it. Let's say that this was a test to see what would happen and the result is here, you failed. Issei couldn't believe it now that the only person who had helped him and given him the willpower to be strong was turning his back on him. Issei, what the buck are you talking about, you bucking faggot? He said this trying to hit him without being able to move. Alone, I'm sorry but that's how things are, that what you feel is nothing more than the seal in your chest to repress every emotion that affects your mind, joy, pain, fear and sadness. Alone stood in front of the black-haired man who had a murderous look on his face wanting to tear apart that black-haired guy with blue eyes. Alone, you have to overcome things by yourself, no one is going to help you and it was a mistake to see it done at the time, it was more out of pity than anything else. Alone put his hand on Issei who tried to move and remove his hand. Issei, what the hell are you doing, bastard? If you do anything I'll kill you and tear off every part of your viscera while you're alive. He tried to move violently, and then Alone just shook his head and seconds later the purple seal on the black-haired man's chest began to break as if it were glass. Just at that moment Issei began to feel all those emotions that he had not been able to feel in all the time he spent with that seal while his purple eyes faded as did that hair as black as the night. Issei, don't do it! Leave me like this! Please! He began to cry and begged to stop feeling those emotions and erase the memories that were coming back to him quickly. Alone, I'm sorry, but it's the right thing to do. This term broke that seal and Issei fell to his knees on the ground with tears in his eyes clenching his fists in helplessness. Issei, you damn bastard! He tried to stand up with difficulty, and then vomited a large amount of blood, seeing a huge sword piercing his stomach, the culprit being a huge statue in the shape of a knight. Alone, I'm really sorry about this. He took out a sword cutting his chest, letting out more blood and then letting the now brown-haired body fall to the ground on the verge of death. Issei was breathing heavily, trying with all his might to live. Issei, you'll pay for this, you damn bastard. Alone just turned around and then put his fingers on his eyes which shone in a dark purple tone. Alone, consider it a compensation gift and a reward in itself. He paused before turning back around with a cold, cutting gaze showing purple eyes. Alone, you get to survive, that will help you. He left, and that statue took its sword out of Issei's dying body who only saw everything slowly fade away. Issei, why does the same thing always happen? He fell to the ground in a huge pool of blood, his own blood. Alone just watched everything from a distance, and just whispered. Alone, he's not ready yet. He said without any expression, disappearing into the immense darkness. Chapter 21. Issei woke up in his bed sweating and panting, turning to look at his mirror seeing that brown hair and his blue eyes. Issei, why the hell is this happening now? He just clenched his fists. He remembered Alone smiling. That look filled him with rage and thirst for revenge. He wanted to take revenge. Someone who had given him his light had taken it from him as if it were nothing and that was something unacceptable. Issei, I swear I'll find a way to make you pay for that, you damn sissy. He got dressed and bathed, going to the academy. This time he alone felt more hatred. There was nothing to block his emotions. Having an angry look, he continued walking until he realized something. It was night, a night as dark as nothing. Issei, what the hell is this? What's going on? He began to walk, realizing something. It wasn't his city, nor was it a different one. He was in a pocket dimension. He had already seen several of them before. Now he was careful not to run into a fallen angel, or a renegade priest. Issei, now what the buck is happening? His doubts were resolved when he saw a being lying on the ground leaning on a water fountain, and in front of him a being in white armor with a shining sword pointing at his chest. Issei, what the buck? He just got a little closer. He knew he had no chance of escaping or getting out of there unless one of the two died inside that place, to which Issei began to listen. Seraquiel. By order of the Council, I, Seraquiel, 10th Leader and 2nd Leader of the Divine Division, sentence you, Asmafel, to immediate execution for the crimes committed against the Council. This saw that huge sword and then saw that being that was lying on the ground. Seraquiel, any last words before your execution, Asmafel? The one named Asmafel only spat out blood while smiling and secretly looking in the direction where Issei was hiding. Asmafel, do you really think I regret it? No, I do not regret having made that decision in this era and those to come. Asmafel, I do not regret my actions, because as Immortal said, a man has to live with the consequences of his actions until the end of his life, whether good or bad, and he has to accept the consequences that those decisions bring in his life. He lowered his head a little, revealing a head of blonde hair while his laughter could be heard through the helmet he was wearing. Seraquiel, I really don't understand what you're thinking, Asmafel. He moved his sword ready to decapitate that being in black armor until he was alone and said a few words. Asmafel, and in this era and in the following ones I will seek a way to keep my word. He smiled and then saw the shadow of the sword on the ground grow larger, as he watched his body sitting and his head rolling on the ground. While his last thoughts were, Asmafel, darkness. Issei saw all that, unable to believe that an angel could kill another angel, so he tried to get out of there, and then saw how that being displayed enormous wings, different from those of any angel or fallen angel. The angel left there leaving that corpse, but there was something different. It was not a park, but rather a city or villa very identical to those of the Italian Renaissance. It resembled the Vatican or was very identical. After that, a great brightness blinded him for a few seconds, and then he opened his eyes, seeing that he was in the living room standing in front of the door ready to leave. Issei, was it a hallucination? Or was it a memory? He began to think and try to understand what had happened, but while his thoughts were trying to organize, Nora was behind him. He had already arrived at the academy, being noticed the change in his hair and eyes, while Nora barely managed to recognize him due to the sudden change from one day to another. She approached from behind and then scared him by putting her hands on his shoulders abruptly, and then looked at Issei's face, who had a surprised face and then changed to a serious one. Issei, what do you want, Nora? Nora was just surprised, since it was one of the first time that he addressed her by her name, since normally he was cold and abrupt. Nora, I came because I wanted to be with you. Are you okay? Are you sick? She began to examine Issei's body while he was alone. She pushed Nora away and then spoke. Issei, no, I'm not sick, so please stop doing that. He left from there, being followed by Nora, but from a window in a certain building 2 different people looked at the somewhat curious scene with interest. Rias, should I ask Akeno for help? Akeno, who was sitting in front of her calmly drinking tea, just sighed and spoke. Akeno, yes, it will be a great help if you join us in dealing with him. It was something serious due to the situation her mistress and friend was in. Rias, I guess there's nothing else to do. We'll talk when there's time today if possible. She closed the window and then went with Akeno to their respective classroom to start classes, while the other person looked at those young people. Sona, so Rias would ask him for help, huh? She walked away from the window and sat at her desk, then stared into space, thinking to herself as Saji sat. Saji, do you think this will be of any use? I don't think it will change the matter much. Sona, whatever in this situation, we can only observe and give a little help indirectly for Ella. She sighed and looked at Saji. Sona, I guess the time period is up for her, and now she has to face her destiny. Chapter 22, Before the Storm. Issei arrived at his class and then sat down, trying not to pay attention to anyone, while Nora just sat talking to the others, since in the period of time in which she arrived she began to make friends with several of her classmates, while Issei remained the same as the first time. Nora, Issei, do you want to do something today? Are you free? He just looked in her direction and then looked into her eyes, then turned around and spoke in a somewhat cold manner. Issei, no, I have nothing to do today, what are you planning now? Issei looked at Nora with a thoughtful and calculating look while Nora just smiled and hugged Issei. Nora, now that I think about it, you've never been to my house. How about you go and sleep there, huh? That statement made everyone turn to look at the pair while a certain pair of girls didn't like that statement, as they looked annoyed at what was happening. Issei just looked at Nora somewhat surprised and then asked, Issei, what if he said no? What will happen? Nora, I'll drag you to my house, maybe I'll call a taxi to take you tied up. Issei just smiled mockingly as he looked at the girl in front of him. She was someone different from the people he had met. He didn't trust her, but he had developed a certain affection for her. Issei, I still won't do it. He returned to his cold state when he saw everyone watching them while sending an angry look. Nora, we'll see. She sat next to him. Apparently she was the only person who could make the brunette smile even slightly while he gave the others a disinterested and somewhat cold look. While in the Hyoudou mansion, Chestnut's father and mother were thinking about him and how to bring him back to the family so that he would be the legitimate heir of the Hyoudou clan. The chestnut tree's mother had hit his wife because she knew everything that happened while she was investigating and traveling, as well as the fact of what her brothers did. She wanted to hit her children with everything, but she held back since she had also neglected her son. For her, the youngest had always been her baby since he was totally different from his brothers. She used to send letters and gifts to Chestnut from time to time, but now she was more than sure that those letters and gifts never reached him. She just clenched her fists as she looked at those present, her husband and children. I really don't know what to say, you are all more than. She repressed her anger, trying not to let it out, and looked at her husband. And what do you plan to do? Tell him to come back as if nothing had happened? As if all those years had just been a game? Do you think he will accept it? He has to do it. He is not just a crying child, he is already a man and he has to behave as such. He is no longer a child, so he has to come back to take care of this family. Do you really believe that? Do you have the slightest idea of what you're saying? Do you really think he'll listen to you? You're a complete idiot. Maybe he won't listen to me, but he will listen to you. You'll be the one to bring him back to this place, where he truly belongs, not in a simple house. It's like a dragon living in a corral leaving his castle. This look would be his wife, and then he would listen to her words. Well, I'm sorry to say it, but I won't do it. He's had enough with this family, and if I have to be on his side, I will. I've already failed once and I won't do it again and bring him to a place that couldn't even be his home. She went from there to her room while the chestnut's father clenched his fists and looked at his children. You have to bring him to this place, understood? He stood up and went to his office while the brown-haired brothers just lowered their heads. At the academy, the break had arrived and Nora and Issei went to eat, or rather he was dragged since he wanted to be alone, but it mattered little to nothing since Nora took him away. Nora, you must eat well, you know that is not nutritious at all, right? He said, pointing at the brown-haired boy's food, which was a hamburger and a pizza along with a can of juice. Issei, so what? It's my food anyway, and it's for enjoying. Nora just frowned and intensely took that food away from Issei and gave him her salad. Nora, you better eat this. Issei, that's what you say, but you're drooling. He said as he watched Nora eat the brown-haired boy's food, and they fought for 5 minutes until someone approached them. Kaneko, the president would like to speak with you after school. I hope you arrive. She spoke in her classic cold tone as she walked away from there. Nora and Issei looked at each other, and then continued arguing over the brown-haired boy's food. Hours later, after classes ended, everyone was leaving. While Issei was about to leave, Nora stopped him. Nora, you will not go to that place. Issei, it doesn't matter what you have to say to me or if it's something related to my family, I don't care. Nora, could you come with me, so we can go to your house or to the mall later? Nora looked at Issei, who agreed to go with her to the occult building. While in that place, Rias was sitting at her desk, would later hear how the door would open. Akeno, they'll arrive today. It seems they brought forward the meeting. Rias, what? Today? She was stressed as she thought about what would happen. Chapter 23. The Storm Begins. Issei and Nora soon arrived at the building where the Occult Club was, and then knocked on the door, which opened, and they both went inside, checking the interior, and began to walk until they reached the office of the club leader. When they knocked, they were both greeted by a female voice. Rias, go ahead. They entered, seeing Rias along with all his companions and servants. Rias, come on, have a seat. She smiled calmly, looking at Nora and that cold look of the brown-haired boy who sat next to Nora, who smiled at her and began to speak. Nora, what is the matter you have with us? Rias just sighed and then looked at her. This girl was going straight to where the conversation was going, she thought to herself. Rias, okay Nora, I'll tell you, I need your help. Nora, why do you need my help? Nora heard the question. There was something strange. There was a background behind that request. Rias, it's a bit private, but I'll be honest, I need your strength. Nora was right. There was something more than the simple request, since Rias usually did not ask anyone for help unless she had no other option. Nora, what do you need my strength for? You have the red dragon on your side. Rias, at the moment we cannot count on her, due to several problems. Nora saw no lie in his words and just sighed. Nora, and what would I gain from all this? How big must the problem be for you to ask me for help? Rias just clenched her fists. It was true, she was the type of person who didn't ask anyone for help, not out of arrogance but because she seemed weak. Rias, I will give you whatever you want as long as it is within my capabilities. She was being sincere about her request. She wanted his help to be able to confront that person. Issei, who had been silent the whole time, spoke sharply and directly. Issei Gremory, why did you call me? What does this have to do with me? He looked at Rias in a serious and unfriendly way. Rias, I'm sorry Hyoudou, but I wanted to ask you for information about the matter you spoke of. Before she could finish, she was stopped by the brown-haired boy. Issei, she's not my sister and I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even care if she's right or wrong. Rias just stopped and looked at Issei. Rias, I see, sorry for talking like that, that's all I wanted to know, sorry if I wasted your time. Rias said sincerely, she wanted to know the reason why her strongest servant and friend could not help in this situation, but she got no answer. Issei, it doesn't matter, but if you want to know you should ask me directly instead of sending your lackeys. He stood up to leave, being watched by a certain nun and a certain blue-haired girl. Before he could leave, a circle of fire appeared in the middle of the room along with the sound of a phoenix. Rias, they're here. From the circle appeared Raiser Phoenix, who was with his entourage of women and also harem. Raiser, hey, my beloved fiancé has come, I see you have visitors. He said, seeing how he repudiated the chestnut and with interest towards Nora. Rias, that's right, you're coming at a bad time. Raiser, I just came to see you before the meeting of the day after tomorrow. He smiled and tried to approach Rias, who stopped him with her gaze. Rias, you shouldn't be here, so go away. Raiser, why so much hostility towards your future husband? Laughed. He approached the chestnut tree, who just looked at him coldly. Raiser, is this your new toy? Do you have such bad taste that you don't know who I am? Before he could speak, the chestnut spoke. Issei, I am Raiser Phoenix, heir to the House of Phoenix and one of the pillars of the underworld. Oh, and I'm a complete imbecile. He looked at Raiser, who just smiled annoyed but then mocked. Raiser, I see you know me, so maybe you weren't a toy for girls, but that's a shame because you've probably never been with a woman. He said this while groping his queen's breasts in front of everyone to make fun of Issei, while that woman looked at the brunette waiting to see Ian's reaction. RP, Queen Phoenix my lord, it seems that this boy is not interested in women, perhaps he likes to be laid. He said, laughing shamelessly, and then looked at the brown-haired boy, who only spoke without showing any expression. Issei, wow, and I thought this idiot's pets only had a body instead of a brain. RP, what did you say, damn human? Issei, what you heard, I didn't think this guy had such bad taste like you who have no brain. RP, What are you trying to say, imbecile? Issei, there's not much difference between you and a prostitute, except that they charge at least. While you open your legs to everyone who has something to enter you, maybe you're so used that I could even put my whole hand in there, although maybe I'd get some kind of disease from being so used. Hitch. He looked at that woman without any interest and then finished. Issei, it's not that I don't like women, I just don't like those with their crotches so used and without pay. RP, damn bastard. She tried to attack Issei, but instead the one who was attacked was Rias, since basically by insulting his Rian he was implying that he liked second-hand things. Rias, damn brat. He approached Issei dangerously, who did the same, and to everyone's surprise he took a knife out of his pants which he put on the blonde's neck. Issei, calm down, blondie, maybe you should look for men who can calm you down, they might even open you up more than you already are. This one smiled mockingly, but Rias tried to attack only to feel his neck cut slightly. Rias, do you really think a simple knife will hurt me? He smiled, but on the contrary his wound did not heal and continued bleeding. Rias, what the hell? He looked at Issei, who was still smiling. Issei, I told you, Hitch, don't try anything, because you're a simple chicken, so know your place like the animal that you are. He moved the knife again while Nora tried to calm him down, and after that a great glow appeared in the room. Chapter 24. After the shine faded they saw Rias engulfed in flames, furious that a mere human had hurt and humiliated him. Rias, you damn brat, you dare to talk to me like that. Issei was expressionless, and then smiled at her, and raised the knife ready to attack. Issei, and from what I just said, it is confirmed by a garbage with garbage of equal value, it is like seeing shit next to shit. I don't notice the difference, only that one is on fire. Just before Rias attacked, a magic circle appeared between them, and from it came out Lucifer's wife and Rias' sister-in-law. Seeing what was happening, she spoke to Rias about it. Grafia, what's going on here, Rias? Rias was a little nervous and proceeded to speak. Rias, I'm sorry, I couldn't control the situation and this got out of hand. He bowed while Grafia looked at Rias and Issei. The latter showed no interest while Rias bowed. He knew that she was someone far superior to him, and had to show respect. Issei was being scolded by Nora without showing interest or attention until Grafia spoke. Grafia, you two must stop, this is not a playing field. If you fight there may be damage and injury to the humans. Rias Phoenix, you must return to your clan. Rias was upset and spoke. Rias, tell that damn brat to come and I'll kill him slowly as payment. Issei, if you have your balls on, damn blonde. Grafia looked at Issei somewhat annoyed but was paralyzed for a few seconds when she felt a heavy aura coming from the brown-haired boy next to her gaze and her eyes, which for a fraction of a second turned into a purple glow. Issei didn't say anything and was about to leave until he was stopped by Grafia. Grafia, who are you? I can sense that you are human. Issei, who I am is not important, but just one thing, if he shows himself in my way again I will open his neck and make him suffer. He left from there being followed by Nora. Before leaving she agreed to help since she was upset with that blonde for speaking badly of the black-haired man. Rias and the others saw everything and knew something. The brown-haired boy was not a normal person. Having a knife that was able to hurt Rias was something of interest. Nora, hey Issei, wait for me. Where are we going? Issei, I don't know, just stop following me. He walked quickly while Nora followed him, and then caught up with him. Nora, hey, calm down, that's over. You don't have to be mad at me. Issei just looked at her eyes wanting to push her, but she just looked away and spoke. Issei, whatever, let's get out of here. He continued walking while Nora followed him. Nora, where did you get that Issei knife? She was curious. She knew very well that the Phoenix family had a great healing factor, but seeing how one of the clan couldn't even close the wound seemed mysterious to her. Issei, I have one more question. He stopped, looking Nora in the eyes. Issei, how do you know about the supernatural world? What mythology or faction are you from? Nora just remained silent, and then responded. Nora, I am Nora, daughter of Thor and descendant of Odin, and I only came here to live my youth, that's all, and I found you. Issei looked into her eyes without feeling or seeing a trace of lie within her, and just spoke. Issei, well, I hope so, show me how different you are from the others. Issei just left there while Nora watched his back and how he left there on that evening night, while on the other side Rias watched in her window that boy with some interest in him. Rias, what else do you have hired to Issei? While in hell Rias was in his territory annoyed unleashing his wrath on a training camp. Rias, that damn brat, I swear I'll kill him. He remembered her face and the slowly healing scar on her neck with hatred. Issei walked away from there without knowing that this was the beginning of a story of which he had no idea what role the people would have in it. But one thing is certain, the darkness and the light will always be there. The preparations began in hell and were carried out while Grafia could not stop thinking about that young man and those eyes full of hate, death, pain and resentment. Grafia, who is it? His aura, it stank. He said, remembering that for a few seconds he could smell putrefaction and sulfur in the air, relating it to that young man with brown hair who after investigating he learned was the brother of one of Ria's servants.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.